Do it. We're in.
Are the mics on?
Yeah.
We're live. Yeah, I just turned
Okay,
us
well,
up.
I hope welcome in National Skibbity Toilet League, Siege Team League, whatever you want to call it. This is your host, Jonathan Pusilowski, with his beautiful trophy here. Bow from Chris. Well said, Chris. Anthony, I just want to say before we get started, you suck. Should have picked up the Falcons defense, and this would have been yours. 11-3 for what? Yeah, you're terrible. What's up, Adam? Welcome in, Adam, Chris. I assume Andrew is here. Anthony is here, of course, as well. This is, and I'll let them introduce themselves. These are my two co-hosts. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, what's up? I'm Jack.
I'm Sanders.
Yes, these are my
I
two
just
co-hosts.
want to clarify real quick. We're not going to start the podcast till after this, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yes,
We're
this
just
is
vibing
not.
for 10 minutes.
We're just vibing. Gizzo. I didn't realize that was your YouTube name. That's funny. We have the duck race ready. We'll put that up here in a second.
Some cute ducks.
I do want to say before we get to that here's just like the kind of the rule of what's going to happen. We have.
Do you want to? Are you about to explain why it's happening as well? Just for the
Oh,
people?
sure, yeah.
Because I think we might have a couple viewers maybe who don't know what's happening.
So this is for one of my fantasy football leagues where I am the commissioner, and I won it in the first year. We are about to do a duck race live on stream with live ducks for our draft order for this year's fantasy draft. This was the determined method of determining who gets the first selection, second selection, and so forth. Last year, it was a huge deal. It was auto-generated. And the man that got the first overall pick had
Got
the honor
shafted.
of selecting Christian McCaffrey.
It's tough.
The man who was selecting 10th was me, and I selected Saquon Barkley, and that is, of course, my MVP and the reason I have this trophy in my hands to begin with. So this is a very important night for our league. This year's punishment, last year the punishment was, and it was not done, which is a huge reason that member has been kicked out of the league. You were supposed to take a picture of yourself in an adult diaper and just an adult diaper and post it on Instagram for 5 days, no caption, can't take it down.
Okay.
That member, David, did not do that. So he's been kicked out of the league, and now we have our newest member. And if you're here, Jake, welcome. We have Jake Jones joining the league as his first season in the NSTL. So a big night for him. This year's punishment, though, we are doing the Kamala Harris book plus quiz. So Kamala Harris released a book.
Okay.
I forgot how many pages it was. It was like something like 350. The punishment is you have to read that book entirely, and then the other 9 people will create a quiz that you have to get a 70% or higher on, pass, but we're going to make the quiz hard as possible. Like super particular, like pulling out one sentence from like chapter 6.
Is it open note?
No open note. You attempt it. You only get to know how many you got wrong or correct, but you don't get to know which ones.
Sure.
And you have to continue taking it until you pass. So you essentially have to memorize this 350-page book of Kamala Harris and her words.
Or you could just try every possible option of different. It's multiple choice.
It's multiple choice. It's going to be 50 questions.
It's a lot of questions to just kind of try and
Yeah,
BS.
It's not something you can just Christmas tree and get a 70 on. So you're going to have to know the book inside and out. So that's our punishment this year. So the draft order is, of course, also huge implications on that because whoever gets Christian McCaffrey probably loses the league this year. But without further ado, I will quit holding back. This is also true, Andrew. You can't leave the room until it's done, meaning you can't leave the room until you've gotten a 70 on the quiz.
That's insane.
Yeah,
So you better not commit to taking the quiz until you think you're ready.
yeah, you better
for
be
it.
ready. Otherwise, you're going to have to continue attempting it
Wow.
until you leave. Or until you get a 70.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
You continue.
No, I'm the farthest
I
off
just, I just turned myself down.
one. So, without further ado, I will get into the duck race, if you don't mind pulling that up, Sanders.
Let's
we have
do
the
it.
duck race ready. This is our site here. We're doing colors only. Your team names are in there, boys. Staring at the Sun, Lizard. Thank you. My homeless kids. Big Ben and Millie. I'm Diamond 1. Here's the thing. Fint Vengers, Saibao, and Executive Decision. All of those names are there, and they're ready to go. So go ahead and click Set, Sanders. We'll see the lineup. There is everybody. Do not click Start yet. We will start here in just a second, but this is
This is
everybody.
the longest 2 minutes of my life.
This is going to be
I'm
fun.
hyped personally.
Remember, this is 2 minutes. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So best of luck to everybody. And without further ado, Sanders, you can click Start whenever you'd like.
And they're off.
They are off. Executive Decision up there in the top. Leading off, it looks like Fint Vengers, Thomas.
Bro,
It's
I
about
got
to
my
come out
money
in
on
front.
Lizard down there.
Big Ben and Millie looks to be
Here's
the
the things
lead
taking the
horse
dub.
with a minute 45. Me personally, I'm hoping I'm either 9th, 10th, or in the top 3.
Wait, who are you, JP?
I am Staring at the Sun. I'm
He's
the one at the
bottom.
bottom.
He's
number
purple
one.
duck.
We have Fint Vengers in an early lead.
You don't want to get onto a lead in this thing though. It's like any race at like a baseball game or something. It's always a come from behind story in these things.
To make sure it worked, I've watched a ton of races. Anything can happen. It's truly random. I've seen someone lead the entire way. I've seen someone been in last the entire way, and then anything in between. So anything can happen here in this final 1 minute and 5 seconds. Here's the thing. Our current leader down there with Lizard.
Come on, Lizard.
And
Come on, Lizard.
Diamond 1 quickly trying behind.
I mean, it's already gone by. That was quick.
Big Ben and Millie
gotta-
is
yeah, we'll just do this
way
every week.
behind
Yeah.
in the pack. He needs to pick up the pace, otherwise we're going to be looking at 10th. I'm Diamond 1 leading out in front. Anthony, are you excited?
There's no way Diamond 1 can keep this pace up. He's going to get tired.
Thank you's creeping up though
Here
on
we
the
go.
inside lane.
Look at Diamond
40
1. He's running out of gas. He's running out of gas.
Now, I will tell you, all the races I've watched, the last 30 seconds, 20 seconds is as crazy as you'll ever see. So I'm hoping it's crazy here as well. Some guys hold that little speed boost, and they just go off in those last 20 seconds.
Executive decision, making a
We've got
move up top.
4-man pack
There's no
up
way
top.
Saibao comes back. Oh, Schubert.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
He's zooming.
Here comes-
Why-
here's the
Thank
thing.
you.
They're slowing down.
My homeless kids. Executive Decision has lost it entirely.
here comes
Come
here's
on,
the
Lizard.
thing.
There's no way Saibao is going to do this. There's no way.
Fint Vengers making a push.
Lizard.
Oh my.
Come on,
Fifth
Lizard.
Fingers!
There he goes.
No way. He's going to stall. He's going to stall.
Out of nowhere.
He
That's
got it!
insane.
Fint Vengers
Wow.
has won the number 1 overall pick.
Crazy.
Do I hit the trophy?
Congratulations to Thomas Mickle. I'll reveal everyone else now. So in first place is Fint Vengers. In second place, here's the
Dang,
thing.
I was close.
I'm Diamond 1 in third. Thank you. In fourth, my homeless kids in fifth. Saibao in sixth. Staring at the Sun featuring SZA, myself at 7th, Big Ben and Millie, Executive Decision, and then Lizard in 10th place, which I will remind you is the place that won the league last season. Yeah, go ahead and copy those and email those to me.
I will do that.
But congratulations to Fint Vengers. Maybe this will be yours one day. But remember, first place last year at Christian McCaffrey, and that didn't turn out well. So good luck to you, Thomas. Chalk Lizard, indeed. 10th place. That was fun.
That was hype. I think we should just start doing duck race previews.
Yeah,
Screw
we
the
need to
football
just start
previews.
Doing that. I should have had you upload the I made a little graphic with the odds to land the number 1 overall pick. But everyone was at plus 900 because everyone had equal chance.
Yeah, I about to say. Yeah.
Sure.
Pretty even.
No one bet on it, unfortunately. But congratulations to Fint Vengers. It looks like he wasn't even in the chat to see it. So
That's tough.
what the heck, man? Where were you?
That's crazy.
Without further ado, then, now we can get into the actual show.
Awesome.
Which, if y'all want to stick around, you're more than welcome to. If not, that's mean. Why aren't you supporting your friend? But we're going to talk about the Big 12 and some college football now.
You want to go get started?
Yeah, we're ready.
Jack, go ahead and
You can
start
hit
the intro.
button. We
Well,
can-
real quick,
Oh.
how do you feel about 7th?
Oh, good
I
question.
see 7th is right there on the borderline. So this year we're going to more than likely activate trading draft picks. I'm going to be offering this draft pick up a lot. Trying to get back into
It's
the
a keeper
11th
league?
or 12th. No, this is a normal league.
Y'all trade draft picks and
We
a
didn't do it
norm-
last year, but we're thinking about doing it this year.
That's
But who would
crazy.
trade?
Why would
Like you're gonna have to package picks.
So
I guess.
like
Yeah.
I would trade the 7th overall for for Lizard's 2nd rounder. I'll give up like my 1st round pick to have his 2nd and 4th or something, and then I could double up 2 seconds and have 2 fourths. Those are the kind of trades you're looking for, or like the trade up to 9th from 10th. Maybe you give up your 1st round.
Yeah,
pick.
I think the drop, like the first to drop, giving up a first to get a 2nd, like that feels like too much of a drop off for me, especially in fantasy football, where like at that top. But if you're worried about losing a guy,
It's also the spot because like 6th, 7th, you're looking at guys like Christian McCaffrey.
yeah,
And Malik Neighbors and those kind of areas, and those aren't necessarily like the top 5 where it's Puka or Saquon or Bijan. It's just
no, you don't want to dress Saquon.
Yeah, Madden curse is there,
facts. Didn't it get
but
broken?
that's why trading is no. I mean yes and no. Mahomes technically broke it.
I mean,
I'm
he'll
turning myself up just a little
unbreak it when he tears his ACL this year.
Yeah, and
His
Mahomes is on ACL
delayed
watch.
delayed reaction. I think it's funny. Adam, is it Voigt? Is that how you say his last name?
Yes.
He sounds like all those Raiders fans, bunch of gambling addicts. All the Raiders fans in our TikTok who are like, I'll bet on this. I'll bet on this. Not a single person in our TikToks had commented that they wanted to bet. And then like 80% of the Raiders TikToks are bet. I'll take those
Yeah.
odds.
Well, it's really good odds for them.
Yeah.
Adam, I say to him all the time that he needs to call the number. He's not a gambling addict, but he's probably the most likely to go down that avenue. Nothing on the slight there.
And the
he's up money though.
Skip
So
the
he's
toilet league superlatives.
technically a semi-professional gambler, although he doesn't have the amount that I've gambled. But 6-7, well said. I did say that. That is actually kind of crazy. No, 7th I feel good, but I'm gonna try to trade that pick more than likely. Right now I
Bet.
my guess is I'm taking CeeDee Lamb, but I don't like that. That doesn't feel like a good 1st overall pick. But I mean, we're ready to go now.
Cool.
Get into the Big 12.
Let's
Do
do
it.
it. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Technical Fowl podcast. You're, as always, joined by the 3 of us. I'm Jack Anderson. To my right is JB Pusilowski, proudly showing off his trophy from last year's Fantasy Football League.
Yes, sir.
How's it feel to have that thing?
It feels great, especially in front of the people that I won it.
People in the chat, me and Sanders didn't lose to this guy.
Yes, this is true.
But just to clarify.
But no, it feels great to
I'm
have
actually
this.
1-0 in leagues that I'm been in JP with, I think.
Yeah,
So, but
that'll change. This
and
year,
that was
though.
I snuck into the playoffs as a 4 seed,
You also
and you were the 5 seed.
well, yeah, and you also got my players. I helped you win.
Yeah,
I also helped you win.
Yeah, y'all
Actually,
did.
you're welcome.
I traded away
I-
my future,
And-
not my future.
No,
my
I'm about to
now-
say I trade away
now
my
for a
future. I still think I've got this next one in the bag. Jackson,
Sure. sure.
Who got robbed? Was he? He wasn't even in the playoffs.
Yeah, he joined at a tough time. He's he wasn't even in that league.
This is true.
He's in the I think. He's
Oh,
talking about the
yeah,
college
you're
league.
right,
He's
you're
talking
right.
about the college league.
He
The,
was on the brink of playoffs.
Was he actually?
Yeah, he was close.
Okay. Well, I snuck in at like 1 game above 500 or something. It was very close. No, I don't remember.
It was really close at the cut line.
Went on a playoff tear.
Anyway, he's already kind of introduced himself, but Sanders
I'm
Oakley is to
Sanders.
my left.
What's up?
Once again, as always, joined by the 3 of us. And today on the docket, Big 12 football preview for the 2025 season. It's a new look Big 12. Kind of these past couple years, 16 teams, so Big 16, you could say. Yes.
What?
No?
Yes, 16 teams. Sorry, I
Well,
was
said,
reading.
whatever.
I was
whatever.
reading Chrome.
Yes, yes. 16
Thank you,
16
teams.
teams.
Thank you.
There are 16 teams.
We will roll through them alphabetically.
Is this the first year with 16? Thought it was,
No.
Yeah. Then
I
why-
said new look the past couple years.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it still feels weird to see some of these teams in the
No,
Big
there
12,
definitely
even
is.
though they were
Well,
here last year.
we were
Let me-
reading him off to. I said win. Who he was hanging out with us earlier. It's like, who would you pick to win the Big 12? He was like, who's in there? And then I had to ramble for 30 seconds to name all the teams.
Yeah.
Took a while.
I'll ask you.
Yeah.
As an Aggie,
Sure.
would you prefer? Not that like it has anything to do with like sliding y'all, the Big 12 or the SEC? Where would you rather be?
The big. Oh my gosh, the SEC.
Okay.
That was almost a bad misspeak. No, the SEC. More.
What do you feel like you fit more geographically? Still the SEC?
I mean, geographically, probably the Big 12, but it's also weird now that Texas and Oklahoma have
Yeah.
joined. The line's very
Yeah, that's
blurred. But yeah, geographically, probably more the Big 12. I prefer to be in the SEC, more prestigious conference, more high-stake games.
Yeah.
It's more fun. I also will say we joined in 2012, and I was 8 at the
Yeah.
time, so it's really what I remember as well.
Fair.
I don't really have tons of. I have a couple memories of the Ryan Tannehill years, Cyrus Gray, Vaughn Miller, but really, the Johnny Manziel year 2012 is like my first clear memories of like watching every game and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of an SEC A&M fan, if that makes sense. And
Fair.
with the way the Big 12 is going, once again, I'm very happy to be out because this is definitely still warrants the tag of like a Power 4 conference, but it doesn't have the elite teams year to year like the SEC or Big 10 have.
Nope.
So it's kind of your chaos parity league, which brings a ton of excitement and fun in its own right, but once again, just not the same.
Yeah, Josh Pate calls it America's Football Conference.
Sure.
Because of that. And when we get into it today, the odds reflect that, and the way we probably feel reflects that as well. There's a lot of teams that can win this.
It's actually it's kind of not reflected because me and Jack both picked the same
Yeah,
team
sure,
to win.
but I'd say in our conversation we'll reflect that.
Yeah.
Last year, I'll remind
100%.
you, the team that was in second to last odds preseason won it in Arizona State. So maybe that's in favor of West Virginia this
Do
season.
you know
and
what the odds were
Mountaineers,
off the top of your head?
It was somewhere in this 5,000,
Yeah.
4,000.
Sure.
I would not bet a
range.
nickel on Oklahoma State at plus 5,000 after looking into them.
That's we'll get into that when we get
As
there.
they got to the point that they did not do a Big 12 preseason poll.
Yeah.
Like between the coaches and stuff. Because I guess none of them wanted to be wrong and slight someone again.
Interesting. I did not
Because
know
they
that. That's
picked
cool.
Arizona State to finish last,
Yeah.
and they won. And so it is kind of cool. Part of me is also like it feels a little cowardly. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, you got it wrong. That
You're not
happens.
going to see me
Keep
take down my
going.
takes after Kansas City wins the AFC West.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
going to double down. Next year, I'm going to pick them to lose.
Okay, you enjoy that, and
You
I will be
continue
here
to be
yet
wrong.
again to clown you with JP, I'm sure. It'll be
Yes.
another 2v1 in that scenario. But yeah, we're going to roll through this conference. We'll try and hit all of the teams. Not all of the teams will get the same amount of talking time or love, just because I don't really feel like talking about UCF as much as I feel like talking about Texas Tech or Arizona State or something like that.
Yeah.
But no, we'll at least give every single team some sort of love as we go throughout this thing. But we can probably just start with a brief overview, JP. If you want to roll through that, you put a lot of that stuff together. So
Yeah. Let us get into that. So I pull up the odds. I'll go ahead and start with that. Like that's going to be the big thing I'm going to come back to a ton throughout this is the odds, and that is that there are two teams tied to win it this year in Kansas State and Texas Tech, and then you have Arizona State. Utah has returned off and off season in terms of the odds. At least they haven't shown it on the field yet. Baylor is an interesting story, and they'll be tested immediately against Auburn in their house on Friday night. TCU's kind of slightly in there in that camp, but I'll get into one big reason why I'm not big on TCU this year, even though we have two guys who may or may not have picked them to win the conference.
we'll see about that.
And then Iowa State is sitting there at 1,100. You may think, oh, that's kind of low considering how they finished last season. They're one game away from the college football playoff, one game away from losing to Texas in overtime, although that may not have gone the same way, considering who was on Arizona State with Cam Scatterbo. But Iowa State is there at 1,100, and then Kansas is in that ballpark. But I'll say again, like, Arizona State was second to last in odds preseason last year, and they won the Big 12, and then we're in a competitive game against Texas. That is the nature of college football. Anything can happen. I'll say the biggest thing for me, storyline-wise, to talk about it broadly, is quarterbacks. If you've got the quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah, pull up that one. So I think quarterback is really what's going to tell the story of this conference this year, and I think it told the story last year as well. These are last year's stats, and the two guys that were in the conference title game and that were playing for a playoff spot were Rocco Beck and Sam Levitt, who both returned this year. Rocco Beck was outstanding last year, 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 picks, and then even 8 touchdowns on the ground. And then Sam Levitt was solid, and they expect him to have an even better year this year. In fact, he's top 5 in terms of quarterback prospects in the NFL draft, not even in the Big 12, which is kind of insane, but we'll see how it plays out this season. He was really good as well last year, 24 touchdowns, 6 picks. That's the big one right there, not turning the ball over. You'll notice with every other quarterback here on the graphic that every quarterback that missed the Big 12 championship game threw more interceptions than Rocco Beck and Sam Levitt. That's a huge part of how Big 12 football is played.
Sure.
It's shootouts, and if you waste a possession by turning the ball over and not even giving yourself a chance to score points, you're going to lose games more often than not. That told the story as no other quarterback that had more interceptions won 10 or more games, while Rocco and Sam won 11. This year, I think the big story will be quarterbacks again and how they play. And there's a lot of them returning, and then a few new faces as well. Avery Johnson is now in his second year as a starter. Last year, he was 8th on Heisman odds before the season began, but that did not pan out the way he wanted to. Again, he was just a true sophomore at that time, and he was very young. He'll go into his true junior season now, second year as the starter. Last year, also, Kansas State was expected to win the conference. They were the second favorite to win the conference behind Utah last year going into the year, and they didn't pan out, but we'll get into Kansas State later down the road. Behrin Morton. I don't know how to say his first name, to be honest.
What's going Morton?
Probably just Barron.
Barron?
Barron is what I was had in my
Barron?
head as
That's
well.
how-
So
I feel like the H is not going to do a whole lot.
Phonetically, it doesn't make sense given what's there.
Barron,
But
maybe Barron.
Barron Morton.
Barron?
I don't know. I'm just gonna call him Morton for the rest of the show.
I love that personally.
Because I'm a big fan of Morton, the other person. He is a big name that is going to be under a lot of spotlight. He was the starting quarterback for Texas Tech last year, but he, because of what Texas Tech has brought in, is going to have huge expectations, considering the weapons that they have, and he's going to be expected to shine and play very well. Sam Levitt is kind of a similar story. He's got huge expectations because of how highly sought after he is in terms of a quarterback prospect, again, for the NFL, not even for the Big 12, which, I think it's, personally, I think we can start there. I think it's a little bit overblown. I don't know what I saw last season to tell me that guy is a potential first-round quarterback yet. I think he has the potential to get there, but I don't know if it was necessarily enough. I'm a big eye test guy, and I don't know if I saw enough from an eye test perspective to say that Sam Levitt is going to be a first-round quarterback, which is about where he is right now, especially from a PFF grade and then from mock drafts in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you in the sense of it's just the way the offense panned out last year and how not reliant because, not that Levitt was bad, but Cam Scadby was just a monster in the backfield. And with that and combined with this scheme, everything was just pretty easy for Sam Levitt. So it's just a thing he didn't show me anything that I disliked. But because of the scheme and Scadaboo, he didn't show me enough to think he's a first-round draft pick. I kind of expect him to show me that stuff this year, just projection-wise. But, yeah, I agree. We're potentially getting a little ahead of ourselves with him.
Yeah, Sanders, do you have any thoughts on Sam?
Not particularly. It does kind of strike me as a little odd that he's got some of the same first-round talk as other guys like Drew Aller or Kay Klubnik, because I don't think Levitt had the same high school pedigree or hype around him. So, and it's not like he's gone like a Joe Burrow and just gone. It is odd because he hasn't put up the Jaden Daniels insane season that gets him that first round talk, and he doesn't have the high school pedigree like a Quinn Ewers or Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure where it's coming from.
He's got huge expectations on him this season. He's 11th in odds to win the Heisman, and again, he's the number 5 quarterback prospect currently on PFF and the number 22 prospect overall. Again, last year, Carson Beck was up there towards the top of mock drafts, so anything can really change throughout the course of a single season.
Sam Howell was at the top of mock drafts in 2022 22.
Yes. So really anything can happen for Sam and anyone in this Big 12 conference. Other quarterbacks, you have Utah, who's down there tied with Arizona State for second best odds. Devin Dampierre, the transfer from New Mexico, comes in. Sanders, pull up the stats again because this is something if you didn't read into this graphic, look a little more closely on Devin Dampierre. 12 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, not good, sure. But the dude ran for almost 1,200 yards. And we talked about Parker Navarro in our last episode. 19 rushing touchdowns. This is a true dual threat. He has the capability to throw. Now, touchdowns, interceptions, especially interceptions, kind of plagued him last year. A lot of his play is on the ground and scoring on the ground, and he's a big play threat because of that. And I'm curious to see how he plays this year. They're really, obviously, Vegas is high on them because to have Utah up there in that conversation, a large part of why they were up there last year was because of Cam Rising in his 6th or 7th year of playing college football. And so they're expecting big things from Devin Dampierre as well this year. Sawyer Robertson, former Bulldog, also Bulldog legend because he was on the team when we won an Egg Bowl. But he is the quarterback again for Baylor this year. Had a decent year last year, especially from his touchdown and interception ratio was really good. 28-8 that's great in the NFL. And we're talking about college football where you're playing 12 games instead of 16. TCU and their
17.
quarterback, 17, yes, now. TCU and their quarterback, Josh Hoover, is a furry. I can confirm that per his Instagram. But he also threw for over 300 yards a game last season, which is obviously on par for a Big 12 quarterback, but above a lot of the guys here on this list. But he is a furry, allegedly. So there's some questions there. Iowa State with Rocco Beck returning. And then Jalen Daniels, again, is quarterback at Kansas, and they'll have a new stadium and high expectations coming off a 5-7 season, though. I'm curious to see what they'll have there. To go down the other quarterbacks to kind of keep an eye on, like I did in the group of 5, Kadon Salter or Juju Lewis will start for Colorado. It's more than likely Kadon Salter, but I would be surprised if Juju Lewis does not start a game this year. I don't think the plan would be to redshirt him. That just doesn't feel like how Deion would kind of treat that.
Sure.
Given the talent that Julian Lewis is. So I'm excited to potentially see that happen at some point this season. But Colorado is not expected to be very good this year, especially without 2 Heisman Trophy candidates last year in Shedeur Sanders and the Heisman Trophy Travis Hunter. Other quarterbacks, Noah Fafita is still a quarterback at Arizona. And then we have a few Aggies down the list here.
Aye.
We have Houston with the 5-star quarterback, as Cromie pointed out earlier. Connor Weigman, the transfer from A&M. Will he be playing with confidence now that he's a Houston Cougar instead of a Texas A&M Aggie Jack?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think it's going to be a lot more low-pressure, low-stakes environment. He's just going to be able to go out there and spin it. The biggest question for him is always going to be health. He's kind of been labeled, rightfully so, as injury-prone at this point. Couldn't stay healthy at A&M. Even last year, he played through an AC joint sprain. Kind of came out later after he got benched for Marcel Reed. But I think he could put up a good season. The bigger question there, which we'll get into later when we get to Houston, is just there's not really great weapons for him there, and that you could only do so much, depending on who you're throwing to. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other Aggie is the guy who's in a quarterback battle right now at West Virginia and the Mountaineers. We have Jalen Henderson.
Y'all should remember him pretty well.
I do remember him well.
I don't remember him. Who is this?
He's the guy who replaced Max Johnson, right? No, was it Weigman that was going to start that game, but they replaced him?
Gosh, now I'm trying to remember because Jalen was a third string that year, so I don't remember exactly
was
how
this
it
2 years
transpired.
ago when we were there?
Yeah.
And there was someone who was hurt, and then there was a guy on the field warming up there was a whole thing that
Yes, we didn't know who was going to start.
Yeah.
And
they sent out somebody else who doesn't look like.
It was weird.
Okay.
But Henderson ended up playing, and he
Yeah.
dropped 50 on y'all.
Basically, there was a quarterback who we thought was going to start, and A&M sent out a dude who looked nothing like him wearing his jersey number, right?
Yes, I do believe that happened.
Yes.
Actually, that sounds really familiar.
That
I
was-
forgot about
that's
that.
exactly what he did.
I just don't remember who it was. I don't remember who the people were, but it was A&M quarterback room was a little odd that Saturday. Yeah, and y'all still dropped 50 on us. So
He can run.
tough day.
He can
I thought
scurry
we
a
had
bit.
y'all after the kickoff return for touchdown. Anybody else on the list,
I
JP?
didn't think that. Yes. Oklahoma State has moved off Bowman finally, and then UCF is in a three-way quarterback battle. And then Adam Voigt is asking a question about an ACC quarterback, Cade Klubnik.
I was gonna actually
Adam-
address that because he had 3,600 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of bounce back season you're
I was
expecting.
going to say the exact same thing. He played excellent last year.
Yeah,
From an offensive perspective,
He finally
we're
stopped
gonna
trying to
have
win games.
a bounce back
and just
season.
and
manage
started trying to manage games.
He's my pick to win the Heisman. I've already bet on that as well. And he's also top 3 already in quarterback rankings for the draft. So I don't know about bounce back. I guess you're asking, is Clemson going to win the national title? They aren't my pick, but there's a chance there. But we'll dive deep into that, Adam, on Sunday in our ACC show. Today is Big 12. But, yeah, I don't know about bounce back season, considering he played excellent last year. Great point from Sanders and I. Sorry, Adam. Do better, please.
No ball.
Yeah,
I mean-
we just got to know ball, especially when it's your team. You're a Clemson Tiger.
is he a Clemson Tiger?
He is a Clemson
That makes
Tiger.
perfect
That's-
sense.
That's
then.
why he's
That
asking.
why he's asking that.
I don't-
All the Clemson Tigers
Don't
think
like Cade.
they were
I thought-
terrible last year.
I thought Duncan loved Cade. Is Duncan the outlier?
Duncan is one of the more pessimistic, like lower views on Clemson football overall.
But I
all Clemson Tigers are, unfortunately.
Duncan is very pessimistic about Clemson. We don't have to talk about Duncan and Clemson. But, like, I feel like he likes Cade. I didn't know that Clemson fans were low on Cade.
They're very low on Cade. He has underperformed, but they, their expectation is to win a national championship every
yes,
single year.
which is that bothers me.
We gotta
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
get
talk about
we'll
that for
get
the
to
ACC. We'll talk
them
about that for
for
the
the
ACC.
on the
Sunday
ACC show.
conversation.
Yeah.
So,
That is a
he
separate
played
conversation.
well, but struggled a bit when it mattered. His best game of the season was against Texas, though, in a game that they unfortunately lost. But sure, I think that's always an indictment. But I also think it's not
Kinda like
necessarily
Justin Herbert.
an indictment on him. I think there's larger parts to that. I think there was poor coaching at times, and the lack of protection in some games. Poor game planning is, I think, a large part the reason they got destroyed by Louisville last year. It's
So-
just like they just were not ready to play.
So you're saying a lack of weapons could lead to 4 interceptions in a
No,
game?
he had some of the best weapons in the country, and he'll have the best weapons in the country
Yeah,
this
yeah,
year
but
as
like if you
well.
didn't have weapons and you
Yeah,
threw,
but like even if you had weapons, and
College
then
and NFL
still
is also
I
couldn't-
know,
just
still
different.
couldn't
I'm
reach
just-
the
I'm
playoffs,
just
and
trolling.
then still couldn't win a game. Like even when you had weapons, you still
I'm just trolling.
even when you had prime Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, you know.
Sure.
Mike Williams, former Clemson Tiger as well.
He's,
I might
isn't he
add, so
back with the
it's-
Chargers now?
I don't know.
I think he
It doesn't
retired.
matter. This is a Big 12 show.
My
after
bad,
all.
my bad. Let's get started. You want to go ahead and start with that first team?
Team by team.
He has underperformed for the amount of hype people were giving him. I sure, but like if you look through historically, many 5 stars have not lived up to hype. Connor Wiegman has not lived up to
Same
hype.
class, actually, and two. Just think about
Another
that.
Clemson Tiger.
I'd rather have Cade than Connor.
Yeah.
DJ Uyunglele has
Would you
not
say
lived
I
up
would
to
say
hype.
Quinn Ewers never really lived up to the hype?
He lived up to the hype. I think he played. No, I think he was excellent. He dealt with injuries all throughout
Sure.
college, especially rib injuries,
Yeah.
and that really hindered him. But to lead for Texas to have never made the playoff before him, and then make the playoff twice with him is living up to the hype.
All right.
No,
Sure. I mean,
Given that,
I think about more where he ends up getting drafted.
yeah, and I
don't-
also think about
Sure, sure.
where he came into college. And this is, can we say that Texas is the Big 12 conversation?
I mean I don't know.
I just feel like because he was in the same. Who did he come in as the same class with?
He went. Of course, he goes to Ohio State first,
a
and then
year early, right? He reclassified.
and goes to Texas after that. But he lived up to the hype, in my opinion.
That's fair.
I think
I think
for a 5-star to
My-
make the playoff twice with a 5-star starting
But wasn't he
quarterback?
wasn't he a perfect rating though coming out of high school? Like
Yes.
wasn't he a 1 or a 100
I think it's the thing.
or 1,000, whatever they call it?
I'm also gonna like I think it's slightly different, but it's a similar thing I'm going to say about Cade, and this is my 2 cents, is like when a 5-star comes in and the expectations are so high, and then it's a thing of they stay around year after year. It's almost like prospect fatigue, right? Of like, oh, they were just like they put up good numbers. Oh, they put up good numbers again, but then it's like you somehow still end up wanting more, and it's like, okay, well, at some point you're starting to become a little unfair to the quarterback asking for more in these situations.
Yeah, I guess it's just like when a guy comes in with the perfect rating and he doesn't put up. Not that not that every perfect prospect's going to put up Joe Burrow numbers, but really anything close to that.
No one's going to put up Joe
Correct,
Burrow
no
numbers.
one is. But I mean, even Jaden Daniels had how many pass touchdowns? Like 40?
Sure.
And how many pass yards? And
But he
Some of it's also team based and like offensive style.
It's
Texas ran the ball a good bit.
agreed. And I think the large part on Quinn was he just was hurt a ton, hurting his shoulder, hurting his ribs. That really, I think, hindered his development. In fact, there's a lot of positive things being said about him in Miami training camp right now.
Yeah.
That he's playing really well, and he is saying like, I finally feel healthy. So who's
Well, that's
to say
good
he won't
'cause
start a game for Miami?
I was going to
this
say,
year?
if he makes the roster, Tua's probably going down at some point, at least for a couple games. So.
Yeah.
Who's the backup there?
it's not Skylar.
It's
It's
not Skylar.
No,
it's
because
Zach
he
Wilson.
moved on. Yeah, it's Zach Wilson. I'd rather see Quinn Ewers start a game than Zach Wilson,
I
agree.
personally.
agree.
So,
Depending on where they are in the postseason race, at least.
The
But on
Arizona
to the,
Wildcats.
On to the Big 12. Yes.
disappointing year for the Wildcats in 2024. A lot of people had them winning this
I did.
conference.
I had them going to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
In my preseason
Noah
prediction.
Fifita was fantastic in 2023. And then with the fact that he was still paired with Tedero McMillan, a lot of people kind of looked at that and were like, oh, this combo right here, like, that's all we need. I think a bit of overlooked thing from last year, they ended up going 4-8, but their starting running back has gotten some buzz on this show, but Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt goes down after one game, doesn't play the rest of the season, and the run game struggled from there. And then they were really bad defensively. They gave up 413 opposing yards per game and 32 opponents' points per game last year. So the defense just got shredded. Fifita regresses a little bit. McMillan had a solid season, not quite like his sophomore season, though, when him and the rest of the offense were just lighting it up. So offense takes a step back. Defense is really bad, and they go 4-8 with a new head coach, Brent Brennan, because if you remember, you had Fish leaves and goes for Washington to fill that vacancy. Coming into this year, they have the 11th best odds to win the Big 12 title. So people have kind of cooled on them, understandably, since last year was pretty rough. Some key players, Noah Fifita, JP already mentioned, he's still back. It's a question of, is last year more of him, or can he kind of find more of that 2023 magic that he had? Can he, find ways to make plays outside the pocket while also protecting the football? Can you kind of ride the balance there? It's tough. They bring in a couple big transfers, in my opinion. Ismail Mahdi from Texas State. He's had 2,300 yards over the past couple years. And then Ty Buchanan is an offensive lineman they brought in from Texas Tech. Defensively, I expect them to kind of struggle again. They don't really have tons of talent on that side. But Marquise Gross Killebrew is a corner for them. He'll play in the secondary. A lot of ties to A&M that man has in recruiting time. He might actually spend some time there. I'm trying to remember now. But he had 28 tackles last year. And then Tay Brown is a linebacker. Had 70-ish tackles last year, a couple sacks. Some thoughts for y'all. New look O-line. They're bringing one guy that played meaningful snaps for them last year, a couple transfers, and a couple other in-house options. Me and Sam's were looking at this last year. Do you remember the guy's name? Because I wish I wrote it down.
The guy that had played 9 games?
No, May or whatever. The guy that was a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
That they were like converting to an offensive lineman from the looks of things, which is pretty interesting. But
It's, well, it went away. Hold up. Yeah, keep talking. I can find it. I literally just had it.
So they're going to be behind a new revamped offensive line, which is going to bring questions of can they protect Fifita and can they run the football? And then also Tet's gone. So what are the weapons going to look like for Fifita? Because if you expect Fifita to kind of find the groove that he had in 2023 when McMillan was on the team, Jacob Cowing was really good on that team. They had good receivers that year. So can people step up the transfers they're bringing in and then in-house options? Are they going to be able to give consistent catching options for Fifita? And then, again, the defense was really bad last year, so do you expect the defense to really step forward? What are y'all guys' thoughts on this team?
The guy's name was Chubba May.
Thank you.
Played defensive tackle previously, and now they're moving to offensive line.
He's a big dude. So
yeah, I'm not a huge fan. Did you already talk about their weapons and their stats last season?
I did not. I just kind of referenced the weapons.
Yeah,
but
so
go ahead
I
and hit
was
it.
so there are 3 starting wide receivers. 2 of them transferred in, and then one of them was already on the roster from last year. They have 28 combined starts last season, and then those 28 starts they combined for 6 touchdowns and 1,800 yards. So very underwhelming numbers. It's like 66 yards a game, and then 6 touchdowns over 28 games is like 1 every 7 games. It's just pretty underwhelming stuff. So I'm not, and that's going from Tedero McMillan, who was a first-round draft pick, who didn't have it was a down junior season after a sophomore season. I'm not very excited about the weapons that they've got to go around him. The running back could be a good running back, but the wide receiver room, I'm just not confident, especially with Noah Fifita coming off of that regression. I feel like they really needed to step up and double down on giving him the weapons to succeed, and because they've seen the high-end play he has, and I don't think they made the moves necessary to do that.
Sure. I will say they had some kind of weird OC issues last year. Dino Babers was calling plays initially in the season. In season, he loses that job, and then from there it's kind of a scramble to figure out who's going to call plays. So they do have a new OC, Seth Doge.
Okay.
I don't actually know if that's his last name, but
New as of they
this
changed
year.
it this year,
Mhm.
so not
So this will be his first time calling plays for Arizona. He only has 1 year of experience before this.
okay.
But maybe
Where
he
was that
can
at?
he can spice things up. I don't remember. You'd
What
have
was
to
his
look it up.
name? Jeff
Doege.
D-O
Seth Doge. But yeah, so that's an interesting wrinkle. Maybe he can sort things out, kind of refine the groove that Fifita was in 2023. But JP?
Yeah, I feel like I don't know the pulse of Arizona Wildcat
Sure.
football and that fan base, but I feel like this season is just a year of can we get back to having a winning record? Can we try to get to 8-4?
Yeah.
Can we? Kind of like how with Mississippi State, and that's not our expectation this season, but can we beat our in-state rival? Can you go and shock Arizona State at their house, kind of thing? I think that's kind of their expectations, and that's how I would look for a hopeful season from them. While you've got a good quarterback in Noah Fifita, and given how the Big 12 is, anything's possible.
Yeah.
I think you accept 7-5, 8-4. I don't think you want to, especially considering what you had last season. And Sanders, you said you picked them to go to the playoff last year.
I did, yeah.
For that to have gone as poorly, I think if I was an Arizona fan, I would just hope, can we return to some semblance of what we were prior to that season? I think that would be the hope for this year, is to kind of do that kind of thing, and then you mark a few games on your calendar. Can we win 1 or 2 of these? And that's no different to how State should treat this year as well.
It's give us a fun week.
Yeah.
I agree. And it's also really tough because, we've mentioned multiple times, people predicted them to go to the playoffs last year. Arizona State was in the depths, and that's your rivals. And then all of a sudden, you go 4-8, and Arizona State makes the college football playoffs. It's kind of a harsh reality check, a harsh kind of flip of the script. So I think at this point, I completely agree. They need to look to just try and have a winning record. Brennan in his second year has to start showing that he can build something, right? Just progress. We need to see progress. Now, this could also be a bit of a transition year, kind of coming off of the Jed Fish teams and his talent with Fifita and McMillan, and then this is kind of, you have an in-between of Fish's guys still left as they're transitioning out, and Brennan's guys. So maybe this is kind of a transition year. You still look to have a winning record, and then you move on from there. And see where it takes you. But not at all where I bet Arizona's fans thought they would be at this point. So
Yeah, he came over from Marshall. Marshall
Cool.
had 380-something yards a game. I'm looking at it now. They averaged 31.2 points per game.
Yeah.
So
I mean, once again, he's called plays for 1 year, so he's
Yeah.
a relative unknown.
he worked with Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin brought him into Ole
Okay.
Miss for a year or two.
Gotcha.
So he has, as much as I don't like it, Lane Kiffin has put together some really good offenses there and some good offensive staff. So that does speak for him. That speaks well for him. So we'll see what that offense looks like. Noah Fifita, what are y'all? So going, I had him. I remember listening to a draft. He just finished his junior year.
Yes.
I remember listening to a draft podcast talking about Noah Fifita and how he was rooting for Bryce Young to have success because they're about the same build, high 5 foot, 5'10", 5'11".
Smaller stature.
Shorter guys, smaller stature, and how they were Noah Fafita needs Bryce Young to play well this year so that he can get drafted. And then Noah Fafita goes on to have a kind of a down season. What do y'all think about him? Do you think he can get back to that ceiling that we saw his sophomore year? Or do you think that the sophomore year is the fluke and the junior year is like that's how it played out?
I think he can get back to that sophomore season, or at least play better than he did last year. I think the offense was just pretty dysfunctional last year. You lose your running back. You have issues with the offensive coordinator. Even like a lot of people had questions about Ted McMillan and stuff like that too. Not that he didn't produce, but just kind of like, why is he not being as dominant and stuff like that? And he ended up going in the first round. He was fantastic. And so like if he even didn't reach his peak last year in college, not that he wasn't like I'm not trying to say he had a bad year, but like I don't see why that can't be viewed as Fafita's down year and he can go back to playing really well.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I wouldn't count on it given.
I mean, the weapons just really aren't there.
Given the weapons, but I also, you're not. Are you also saying like that he has the potential to get into draft consideration again?
I wasn't, but yeah, I'll throw that out there. Do you think we could see him go in like first 2 rounds?
Oh,
I wouldn't draft him.
Absolutely not in the first 2 rounds. I think, I don't want to write the book on Bryce yet. I'd give him this last year. I still think that book is slightly written. I think that book is slightly written on a guy like Tua, who's a little taller but of similar stature. I think that book is kind of already written. There's going to be one-offs all the time. I mean, the biggest one-off is right behind me on this wall right here. So it's possible, but I don't see it. I don't see him playing in the first and second round consideration.
No.
Definitely
That
not.
was too high. I just picked a number off the cuff and I chose too high.
I see him being a guy that doesn't get drafted, maybe gets invited to a mini camp or something like that.
Could be a CFL quarterback.
Yeah, but also the bigger thing, he's only a junior, so I expect him to just try and play well this year and then try and find some money for his senior year. And just
He could be a big transfer.
Yeah.
Like that's completely possible if the way this Arizona season doesn't go well again.
I don't think he's looking draft personally.
yeah.
In fact, I'm sure he transfers in the video game because everybody transfers in this version of the game.
Facts.
So I think that's more possible than playing the first, second round consideration. But it's possible. The weapons, like we said, it's just a huge concern there. Even with losing Ted McMillan, you're going to struggle, and then they've got struggles on top of that as well. So
I was gonna
Go for
wrap it up with over/under prediction because we're not gonna pick the whole schedule like we did in the NFL.
Just
But I've got their over/under, and I'll throw the schedule up there. Do y'all want to wrap up each team? Their over/under is 5.5. You gonna go over/under? I'm not making you put any money on this, JP. Jack, 5.5. Oh, you good?
yeah. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know what I hit, but we're good.
All right, bet. Over/under is 5.5. They play Hawaii. I'm not gonna run through their whole schedule.
I'll take
but
the under.
big games.
It's there on the screen. So.
Yeah, big games: Kansas State, Iowa State, and then Arizona State at Arizona State.
I'll
to
take
close
the
season.
under, and my guess is under would be favored too.
Yeah, I also take the under. If I had to give a number, I'd say they go 5-7, so it's a 1-game improvement. But I don't think many people would really view that as an improvement. But big thing to me, I don't think the defense is gonna be a ton better this year. So
Yeah, I would also take the under on that.
next team,
All right, that was good.
the in-state rivals
Yep, up next in the
of
alphabet.
Arizona State. JP, you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. Arizona State. As I said earlier, unbelievable year considering that they were the second worst odds favorite to win the Big 12 going into the last season, and yet they play for the Big 12 title. And they're in a spot in the Texas game where they are completely in control of that game. Targeting is not called for whatever reason, and they end up losing that game late to the Longhorns in Atlanta, Georgia. But an incredible year from Arizona State and from Kenny Dillingham. He has quickly became one of the stars of college football from a head coaching perspective after one very productive year. And now there is a ton of pressure on them, and Kenny is, at least from what I've seen, trying to handle that as best as he can, not allowing the team to raise their expectations internally. making sure that they stay humble would be another way to put that. Sam Levitt or Leavitt, I don't know the true pronunciation.
I think it's
Levitt.
Levitt returns this year, but Cam Scatterbo does not. Now Levitt and his wide receiver, his best receiver, Jordan Tyson, is also back this year, and that is a duo that is both in the top 50 from a PFF perspective, prospect perspective, and they are expected to be really good and an unbelievable 1-2 punch. And they really kind of were last year as well. Jordan Tyson, 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns. And if you remember, he didn't play in the Big 12 title game or in the playoffs. So much of the national audience did not get to see Jordan Tyson because I guarantee you none of them watched a single Arizona State game that entire year.
I think I only watched one. So
you only watched them when they played against the Bulldogs in Mississippi State and that late night classic. Not a classic. We just covered the spread late. I don't think we covered, to be honest. But much of the media has not seen Jordan Tyson. This guy's going. I think he's going to be. He's going to be a star this year in college football.
I agree.
Guarantee that. But I think he's going to be a very productive receiver in the NFL. And I think much of the media is going to get to see him because Arizona State's going to be on TV more. They're on the national radar more. We'll get to see him in person. I'm excited for that, as the Sun Devils will come here to Starkville to play the Bulldogs in a night game. And the season opener.
Blue Lights will be
the home opener, not season, but
debut.
Blue Lights will be debuting.
it's gonna be electric. I'm excited.
Cowbells everywhere.
Sanders will be behind the camera.
That will be the one of 2 games we sell out next season outside of the Egg Bowl. And, the Sun Devils will come to Starkville. But Tyson is there with Sam Levitt. They, of course, lost Cam Scatterbo, but their transfer, Kane Udo from Army, transfers in. He had 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 6 yards per carry. And, again, an option offense, but still a productive running back for Army. And option offenses feature tons of running backs and quarterbacks even that run for a ton of yards. So still 1,100 yards as a running back in an option offense is very productive, and he is expected to be productive for Arizona State this year, just not to the level that Cam Scatterbo was he was last year. Keyshawn Elliott, linebacker, someone to look out for, 65 tackles, 2 sacks. Sanders, you have a note on Keyshawn Elliott? Do you know why you put Elite 2023 there?
He had over 100-plus tackles in 2023, was much better. Had a bit of a down year last year.
I'm really glad you remember that because I do not remember why I put that there. So,
I put it. I did this.
Okay.
I put
Cool,
it.
cool,
Yeah.
cool.
So he's someone that, like, if you're looking at guys, he's someone I circled to maybe take a jump back, play his way back in the draft conversation, and lead this defense.
Key points, you want to just go and get into that first one there?
Yeah, I am really interested to see what this Arizona State team looks like, led by Kenny Dillingham, because last year their entire mantra and personality was built around being the hunter, right? They were picked last, and they kind of carried that as a chip on their shoulder. And now they're going into this year, and they're number 5 in the favorites. They're
3. Right up there in that top tier.
Yeah, they're up
of
there.
odds.
Yeah, and it's close, but they're up
Tied
there.
second.
Yeah, they tied for second. Thank you. And
In
then
the
they
Big 12, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, tied
and
second.
won it last year. And so what is this team going to look like now that they can't really carry that same chip on their shoulder? Now they're the hunted. I'm not quite sure what to expect because it worked so well for Kenny Dillingham, and it worked so well. We can talk about Cam Scatterbo in a minute and losing him, but their whole team just played into that so well, and it kind of fueled them, I think, a lot of the time. So I'm interested. What do y'all think, or what are your expectations for what this team will look like now that they are the hunted and not the hunter?
I trust Kenny Dillingham, honestly, to lead this team and to figure that out. Even if it's not the same messaging as last year, because like you said, they didn't get picked to finish 16th. But he's a guy I've kind of fallen in love with. He's a football guy through and through. I saw something, he was like, yeah, I get to the office around 7, and he leaves at like 9.
Yeah.
So with that, and then Sam Levitt is another. I expect him to have another good year, and that's one way to kind of, I guess, handle being the hunted is if you have a leader on the field, especially at the QB position.
Yeah.
That can kind of shoulder some of that weight and some of that burden, and he's a guy I expect to do that. So I'm not too worried about it personally, but it is an interesting question.
Yeah, I think the Sam Levitt is the huge part. If he's going to be what he is already being touted out to be, And for Arizona State to find success, he's going to have to be that. He's going to have to be super productive. And like I said earlier, it feels like a quarterback-driven league and not a roster-driven league like we'll make it into in the SEC and Big Ten conversations later down the road. But he's going to have to be really good. He's going to have to rely on Tyson a ton. But my main concern with Arizona State, I will get into in a couple minutes. We can get into this Cam Scatterbo conversation first, though.
Yeah, when you talked about Kane, is it said Kane? Is that how it said, not Kanye?
Oh, I
think it's just a
read it
misread.
wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's spelled Kanye, and I was like,
Shout out
that's
Kanye.
that's an odd pronunciation. Anyways,
The Army running back,
yes,
Kanye.
the Army running back. But you didn't mention Raleek Brown. So I was looking. They have him. He was injured all of last season, but he was the number 3 running back in the class of 2022. He spent 2 years in USC, and then he was hurt all of last year. So that could be a really good 1-2 punch. It's definitely not gonna. It feels like Moneyball. You cannot find a guy to replace Cam Scatterbo, but you can make up for him in the aggregate. So I do like the 2 pieces they brought in, or they already had one on the roster, but I do like the pieces they have to try and kind of continue that run game. I also this is another really cool thing. The Big 12 is just, all of college football is riddled with transfers, right? It's kind of just the way college football is people leave, you bring guys in. Arizona State is only one of 3 Big 12 teams to start only 4 transfers.
That last year, projected starters for this next year.
This year, projected starters for this year.
Gotcha.
So going into 2025, only 4 projected starters are transfers. And I think that's going to be really helpful as far as continuity goes. I think that's going to be really helpful as far as chemistry goes. I mean, these guys, in this era of college football where guys come in and you're playing them, you get to y'all are all together starting in the spring, and you don't get to practice as much. You don't have 2 years or 18 months of practice under your belt like these guys do. I think that could be really beneficial. So I'm really, and then 9 of those starter, and then they also return 9 starters on defense. So there's just so much continuity in this team that even with the loss of guys like Cam Scatterbo and even with the change of dynamic, I've got a lot of faith in this team to carry over a lot of the success from last year.
Yeah, Keyshawn Elliott, we talked about earlier. Xavier Alford is someone to look at too, corner. He had 85 combined tackles last year, 40 solo for a corner who played corner. He didn't play slot. He didn't play in the box. This is a guy who played corner, had 40 solo tackles, also had 2 picks as well. But the big thing for them is they were really productive for a defense in the Big 12.
Yeah.
31st in points per game, 32nd in yards per game. And for a Big 12 team, that's actually really good considering the level of offense that has historically been in this conference. So
and it's also out of us, like if you're looking at, there's 136 FBS teams. So it's not like the NFL where you're 31 out of 32. You're in the top quarter.
They're
teams.
not worst in college football. They're up in that top quarter. They would be worse in the NFL though. But defense, I think, is going to be a strong suit for them. And now I'll get into what I'm actually concerned though. Pull up the odds real quick if you don't mind, and then we'll pull up their schedule. Actually, pull up their schedule first.
Yep.
They play 5 road games this year. Those 5 road games are here in Starkville, which will not be easy for them. I'll go ahead and tell you that. I don't care how bad our team is. That's not going to be an easy game to win. Hopefully, if we can stop the run. If we can stop the run, I don't think it'll be easy.
It realistically wasn't. We almost came back last year.
Sure.
So,
I think if we can just stop the run and force Levitt to pass on 3rd down with cowbells ringing, then it could be a concern. But the other games are really what I wanted to point out is at Baylor, at Utah, at Iowa State, at Colorado, and that's not a pushover whatsoever. Now pull up the odds. Remember, I mentioned Baylor, Utah, Iowa State. Look who's up at the top of the odds. Iowa State, Utah, Baylor is right there behind them as well. And then they also have to play Texas Tech, who is tied favorite to win the conferences this year as well. I think the schedule is I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they'll be a 9-3 football team. But I think 9-3 is going to have them miss the conference championship last year. They kind of snuck in last year because the Big 12
tie at the top.
was kind of cannibalistic.
They had 3 conference losses, right?
They had
2 conference losses.
The top 4
losses.
were 7-2 in the conference,
and they lost twice on the road last year. Is where they lost to at Texas Tech and at Cincinnati. So I think for me, this is why I did not pick them to win the Big 12 because I look at the schedule and I see the road games against some of the premier talent in the Big 12. from a preseason perspective. And then I even think, okay, how tough is it to play in these areas? Mississippi State is not easy. An SEC environment, no matter where it is not easy. Baylor, great stadium, great environment as well. If they're good this year, that'll be a tough place to play. Utah historically is one of the toughest places to play in college football history. The Cyclones can be tough to play, and that's a rematch of the Big 12 title game. And then Colorado has really shown from an environment, at least, that it's a tough place to play. And if that's a night game, that's going to be a whole different animal late in the season. It doesn't really matter who Deion's got there on the other sideline. You saw with even Kansas State last year, like that was a game that went down to the wire, and they really had to win it late. And that's how a lot of the Colorado games go. The schedule is what holds me back. I know Leavitt is highly thought of. Jordan Tyson, like I said, I expect he's going to be a star. But I don't know if I can see them getting to only 2 conference losses.
Yeah.
Because even if they lost to Mississippi State, it doesn't matter. I still think they could lose, and they probably will lose 2 of those games on the road this season. I just kind of expect that. I think that's going to keep them just out of the Big 12 title game this year.
Yeah, which, I mean, by no means is a bad season. I mean, they'd like to go back-to-back, but considering where they have been the past couple years as a program, you can't be too mad at 9-3.
They were 3-9 2 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So as just keep putting together good seasons. I think the Big 12 would be benefit as a conference if a couple teams could establish themselves as perennial powerhouses, teams that you are always counted on being good, like in Alabama, right, to help give the conference some pedigree.
Yeah.
So maybe Arizona State can look to become one of those teams, and 9-3 is that's another kind of step in that direction. So yeah, do we have an over/under on them?
Yes, 8.5.
I take the over.
Yeah, I take the over as well. But I think the season would have to go bad for them to win 4 games, and I just don't expect that to happen given the quarterback and the defense as well. Like even with the schedule I brought up, just because I said those games are going to be tough doesn't mean they're going to lose all of them. In fact, I kind of expect them to win in Starkville. I expect them to win at Baylor, and I expect them to win at Colorado. So I don't. Then and yet you would have to lose 2 games at home.
Yeah.
To get to 4 losses. So I think over is a lock. That's regular season, right? That doesn't include like a postseason.
Correct.
Cool. Then I would take the over. I think 9-3 is the floor, but I expect them to go 9-3 this year.
Yeah, I've also got them going over. I would pick them to go 9-3. I think I would pick them to make that Big 12 championship just because I do think one of their losses will be non-conference. I mean, I guess we're realistically the only hopefully they're one of their losses.
I was gonna say, unless you have them drop into Texas State.
Arizona State, y'all can go 11-1 if you want, so long as you lose to us. Like I would love for them to go 11-1 and lose to us. That'd be great. No, I think over is also the move. There's just too much continuity on that roster. I will be interested to see what the team looks like and what kind of fire they play with. But there's too much experience and there's too much on the roster for them to lose 4 games.
Yeah, I mean, the last question before we move on, like, do y'all think Sam Leavitt's the best quarterback in the conference? If you can't answer that, do you think he's top 3?
Yeah, he's top 3 for sure.
Okay. Like that alone right there is a huge step.
I'm not convinced he'll play the best this year.
Okay.
But I think he is top 3 for sure, and I'm also not convinced he's the best.
Yeah.
Yet I haven't watched.
It's a tight group at the top, so
I haven't watched enough Sam to say that one, he is the prospect that he's already being thought of. But I want to see this year how he plays without Scatterbo and where he is. Like he's the guy of the offense. Not that he wasn't a large part of the offense last year. I want to see that before I really kind of give him that crowd. And I don't think he's going to produce the best. I think there's 2 guys that have a chance to produce better than him this year, and I'll get into them later.
Cool.
Next up is Baylor.
The Baylor Bears.
Who wants to start that?
I can. I think I filled this out, so I can at least kick it off.
First off, I'm going to preface this to any Baylor fans that have clicked on this video. I'm a Texas A&M fan, so I really dislike Baylor. Probably one of my least favorite teams.
And if y'all have already clicked off, that's tough. Otherwise, welcome. But yeah, the Baylor Bears, surprising year last year, right? It'd been a rough couple years for Dave Aranda. They start off last year slowly. He's on the hot seat is scalding hot. His butt is getting just crisped by flames.
Yeah, they were like one loss away from him being
Mhm.
gone.
They trade quarterback. Sawyer Robertson, if y'all remember, didn't actually start the season for them as the starter. They put him in, and I believe they ripped off 6 straight wins to end the season. Yeah, which I do think they typically, they kind of benefited from playing some of the weaker teams down the stretch. But regardless, for where they were and what it was looking like was going to happen last season, to turn it around, rip off 6 straight wins, get hot like that is very impressive. And so now it's kind of like, okay, is that team that got hot down the stretch what we're going to look to see this season? If you look at the odds, that's kind of what's expected. They have the 5th best odds to win the Big 12 title this year. They bring back Sawyer Robertson at QB, threw for just over 3,000 yards last year, had a 28-8 TD to interception ratio, was really phenomenal for them. As State fans, did y'all see that coming? Were y'all sad when he went out the door?
I mean, I didn't like that he was leaving the door, and
Yeah.
I thought from what I had seen and watching every single one of his warm-ups, all
Sure.
40 minutes before games, I thought the talent was there. So I didn't want him to leave, especially considering what we kind of went through last season. I thought he would have been the backup to Blake, and I thought he probably
Therefore, he would have played last
better
year.
than Michael Van Buren. But that's also just hating on MVB.
I mean, he just dip on y'all.
But
so.
yeah, I thought the talent was there.
Yeah.
Sure.
As a little bit more, a less analytical mind, yeah, I was pretty sad. Because it was like, this kind of sucks. And also, as a school where we only get like, I believe he was a 4-star. I'm almost certain he was a 4-star. And as a school that only gets like 5 4-stars a class, it really sucks to see one leave. Even if it's at a position where he wouldn't play. And I don't know that he would have played last year, but yeah, it was pretty tough to watch him go over there and have a really great year down the stretch at Baylor. And now it's kind of like, well, like, yeah, it just is like,
Sure.
I wish he was here having that, but he probably wouldn't have had that season with us. But like, you kind of have to wonder, like, did we miss out? Like, did we?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Everything
it-
happens for a reason.
It's only natural. Yeah, y'all now have other quarterbacks in. You know,
true.
Luke Crum and Hoke probably
Yep.
wouldn't have joined the program if Sawyer Robertson was still around.
Nope.
So, yeah, I expect him to have another good year. A couple other players I have circled. Kobe Prentice, the wide receiver from Bama, has transferred in. Did not really have a very productive year last year. Only had 129 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. But if you're recruited to play wide receiver at Bama, you are very talented. You have a skill set that is desirable, and so they're hoping they can unlock it. I think they probably will. At least he'll be more productive than he was at Bama. He's going to have more than 130 receiving yards. And then defensively, Keaton Thomas is a name to keep in mind. A tackle machine, had 114 tackles last year up the middle. Very good against the run, can get into the backfield a little bit, but just, yeah, a tackle machine. Couple key points. They, as good as Sawyer Robertson was last year, they really leaned on the run game last year. Tandem of Bryson Washington and Dawson Pendergrass were great last year. And I believe they're both back, which is another huge piece. They bring in a lot. They're bringing back a lot of the key pieces of their offense. Sainer, do you have those transfer numbers? I think you were just looking at them.
Like how many?
Yeah,
yes,
how many?
They're starting 5 transfers.
They're starting 5 transfers, so another group that is bringing some guys back, which is why I think saw an interview with David Randa at Media Day, or like a open practice to media, and he's pretty excited about this group and what they can do. So with that in mind, what do y'all guys like about this team? What do you see this team doing this next year? Just general thoughts.
Well, the transfer thing is true for almost all of the teams at the top of the odds.
Yes.
Except Texas Tech. But that to have that is why they're up there and kind of
Correct.
seen that highly. I want to say, like, yeah, they have the 5th best odds to win
and
the title.
Kansas State. Sorry, Kansas
Uh,
State starting 11 transfers.
Yes. They have the 5th best odds to win the title. And people will say that or people will see that and they'll think, oh, that means they're not really up in that top class. The odds from a percentage standpoint, the two favorites, Kansas State and Texas Tech, 16.6. Next closest, the Arizona State, and the team tied with them is 14%, 14.5%, and then they are at 13.3%. So it's literally a 3% difference in terms of probability to win the Big 12 this year.
They're viewed in that top tier of teams.
From an odds perspective. So this is like, while they are the 5th best odds, they are one of the 5 teams that people expect to have a chance to win the conference this year. And I know that Dave Aranda hopes to return to where they were, winning the conference 3 years ago against Oklahoma State with Blake Shapen at the time, a game that had an incredible finish in it. But I don't know. I think the big test is Auburn week 1. I mean, Auburn could be bad this year very, very easily, but a lot of people are really high on Auburn as a dark horse to even win the SEC in some conversations somehow. That's going to be a big test immediately. Like that kind of shows, like, are we good enough against SEC competition to not only win the Big 12, but if we're to win the Big 12, could we compete in a playoff game? And I think that's more of a story for their season, is they have to win week 1.
Yeah.
Week 1 at home, night game against not a top class of the SEC. Like, that's a must-win for Baylor, and I think that kind of culminates their entire season. Well, they could run the table after that. That's completely possible. But I think if you don't give a good showing there, even in week 1, doubters are there immediately. And, again, I'm going to say this a ton this season. It is a committee picking the teams to make the playoff.
Yes.
It is not a robot. Committee, people have feelings. And seeing you lose to Auburn week 1 is going to be a knock on you throughout the entire season, and that could be the difference between being in the playoff potentially. It's more of a conversation for SEC teams, but being in the first round bye slot, more of a conversation there for Baylor and the Bears.
It's also just a huge thing too of how the overall conferences are viewed, right? It's pretty clear that the Big 12 is viewed as a second-tier power conference.
Yeah.
And so to help the conference out as a whole and help out their standing, winning a game against an SEC team that, even if they're not one of the top SEC teams, they're one of the A-tier power conferences. And so it just brings you a lot of, it gives you a lot of value and a lot of ground to stand on, but also the conference as a whole, it gets down the line and you're trying to lobby to maybe get a second team in, and you can show, look what we did against the SEC this year, stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
it's
that's
a lot of really good exposure if you get the win.
It's a huge game for them, but also the Big 12, in my opinion. I'm excited to watch that one for sure.
I'm gonna pull up their schedule real quick and give a shout out or just address the fact that they scheduled 2 out of conference P4 games.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's kind of, especially in this era where people half joking or talking about how Alabama's got all the cupcakes and Texas has the cupcakes. And, you will see teams like Texas and Ohio State schedule each other, but I feel like it's pretty unusual for teams to not, because, I mean, even us, we scheduled Arizona State, and then we scheduled a Southern Miss as a G5 team, and then we have a FCS opponent.
And a MAC opponent as well, another G5
so
team.
We basically scheduled a lot of lower competition.
It's even more of a statement because the Big 12 plays 9 conference games as well. So now you're playing 11 games.
You have one quote-unquote off week.
And Samford, if our Gators in the chat will tell you, that's no cupcake walk either. So go Bulldogs and Samford. I know the second baseman for their softball team. So
massive.
But yeah, I think that's well said, Sanders.
I wonder if the SMU game is they're both Texas schools. I don't know if there's an old rivalry thing there or what.
It
Obviously
definitely could have been scheduled before SMU was in the ACC.
Yeah.
As well.
Still cool they're playing, and still props to them not trying to take it away. I'm just curious the reasoning exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's actually more likely that was scheduled before SMU was in the ACC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, you're able to back out of these things, and we've seen that from
Indiana.
Georgia is doing that as well. They backed out of the Oklahoma series before Oklahoma joined the SEC. So it's happened in the past. Now that was kind of unprecedented, but Indiana is a great example of that right now.
Wake Forest and Ole Miss.
Yep. So yeah, credit to Baylor for doing that, and hopefully it pans out for them. They feel like, for me, a team that, if they're there and they're in a good spot because of the amount of games they'll play, maybe they have the argument to potentially be that second Big 12 team if they were to lose in the conference championship game. But like I said, you got to win Auburn Otherwise, it really doesn't matter because that's a huge part of the resume, regardless of how Auburn performs this year.
Sure.
A win against an SEC opponent in Week 1 is a statement in
How-
itself.
How
Go
many
ahead.
Big 12 teams do we see ranked last year? Like 2 for the like at a time, at any given time. There was one,
we
maybe
could see
2.
We could see 4. Iowa State.
Were there 4 last year?
Iowa State, Kansas State, were
BYU.
ranked a ton. BYU
Okay,
was
okay.
ranked throughout
Down the stretch.
season.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think.
Arizona State, of course. Oklahoma State started the year ranked.
Arizona started the year ranked.
Yeah. So it was like up to 4 probably in the
Yeah.
AP. So you could have a Baylor
Colorado
team.
was ranked at one point.
You could see as many as 5, 6 ranked opponents this season.
It's definitely
Auburn
possible.
could be ranked if their talent pans out. SMU could be ranked if they repeat, and then you have 3 or 4 conference games. You could have this could be turn out to be a tough schedule because you do play Arizona State, Kansas State. Actually, that's really those are the 2 hardest.
Yeah,
TCU.
Their
get-
Big 12 schedule is pretty favorable for them, how it
100%.
shapes
Yeah.
up, because also your hardest opponents are,
are
at home.
Yeah.
It's just the fact you're going Week 1, Week 2, Auburn, and then at SMU really rounds up the schedule and makes it tough.
Yeah, I don't want that to be. I don't mind the point, but I don't want us to be making that point of ranked wins because, as we've seen historically, like that's not necessarily the greatest argument
No,
for
but
teams. But it is. It's
it
an
is just
argument
a
that
good
it's
measure. It's a
fact.
good measurement to be like this could be a. Now, yes, if a team is ranked 26, they're just almost as good as the 25th. But it is harder, or it is more notable when you have 6 ranked
Sure.
wins on your schedule, or 6 ranked opponents going into a
It's
season.
going to help their strength of record regardless.
Yeah.
Which I think is a more
Correct.
usable metric than ranked wins. Although the committee doesn't feel that way. But yeah, Baylor. Do you have their over under?
7.5.
Jack, you got to lean on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the over at 8-4. I think they're just gonna lose too many games to really keep them up there in the contention to make the
So
conference
you've got the
championship.
over.
Oh,
Did I say,
so
did I
he's
say the
taking-
under?
You said over, but then you said they're going to lose. So you're saying they're going to take the over and then go 8-4. So you're
Yes.
taking 8 wins.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Correct.
That's why you said I'm going to take the over. They're going to lose too many games, but you just meant to be in the
Yeah,
playoff.
sorry, I didn't get to finish my thought. Yeah, they're gonna lose too many games to be in the playoff conversation. But they're gonna hit the over in my opinion. I think the talent offensively is there, and they have a pretty good defensive unit. And I know it's been a rough couple years for David Aranda. I mean, barring the turnaround last year, but I do like the culture he brings, and I think they're a team that kind of takes what's in front of them. So if you give them winnable football games, and they find themselves in games late, they're going to find a way to close a lot of those games. But I just think the way the schedule shakes out and play those 2 Power 5 opponents.
7.5 for essentially the 3rd best odds to win the Big 12.
Yeah. I thought that seemed low to me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
take-
feel like the over should be a layup.
I think they're looking at the fact that they have to play Auburn and SMU and factoring that into their win total being a little lower.
I'm actually going to take the under. I'm going to go like 7-5 just because the way they ended the season makes me a little nervous. I'm going to lean towards less of that because we saw really high end play from them for the second half of the season on that 6-game win streak. And so I'm going to
They
lean
beat
that they're,
LSU too.
that they're going to finish
No, they lost to LSU.
They lost to LSU
Yeah.
too.
I'm going to lean that they're going to finish somewhere in the middle of those two, in the spectrum of play between
Gotcha.
starting the season poorly and then winning 6 games straight to end it. I'm going to bet on them finishing somewhere in the middle, so winning 1 less game, 7-5.
Interesting.
Common, Jack and JP versus Sanders.
Yeah.
Yes,
I was-
very used to it.
You maybe already said it, but the words out of my mouth were about to be, I feel like the over is a layup. And then he takes the under. So bold. Bold in my opinion. But hey, it's the Big 12. We'll see.
True. Anything
It's
can
college
happen.
football. We'll see. Let's be real.
BYU, we haven't even made it out of the second letter of the alphabet, and we have been live for an hour and 23 minutes.
We'll speed it up a little bit.
Nah, I'm kidding. We're actually we're only going like 10 minutes a team. We're doing pretty good.
BYU, I'll just
Well, that's too many minutes. Then let's try.
That
We'll
is-
do on the smaller teams. We
yeah,
can
yeah. Well, I mean,
cut, but
we have had some of the heavy hitters off of
Sure.
off rip here. BYU, I'll just start off with the biggest question for them: who's going to play quarterback for them? Because coming off of last year, they went 11-2. Jake Retzloff was coming back, and so it looked like they had that sorted out. They're going to try and improve their weapons around him. Chase Roberts was coming back, who's a good target for him. And then he gets sued in civil court for sexual assault, which is not true. But in order for him to prove it wasn't true, he had to admit he had sex outside of marriage, which is against the BYU code of conduct. And so he's going to get suspended for a bunch of games, so he transfers out. And that left him in a bind because this was late spring, early summer, so quarterbacks had kind of all already found their homes.
Yeah.
They get kind of a weird transfer from Bear Bachmeier, the true freshman, who just happened to transfer from Stanford. Pre this news in spring ball, he transferred from Stanford to BYU. So he's there. McKay Hillstead's there, and Trayson Bourget is there. But what do y'all expect them to do at quarterback, first of all?
Oh, I'd just start the true freshman. I feel like with Kalani Sitake, like, excellent head coach. He's had 2 losing seasons ever. Now this will be his 10th year coaching for the BYU Cougars. 2 losing seasons for BYU. Like, that's substantial. And he's had excellent teams. So I don't think it's necessarily even going to matter who they start at quarterback. I think they'll have a winning record, and I still think they'll be good. Unfortunately for them, that's going to feel like a step down considering the way last season went. They were there, tied in the Big 12 standings with Arizona State, but because they lost at Arizona State, they did not make the Big 12 championship. And so it's, again, going to feel like another step back because of that. It's unfortunate the way that is all played out, but we're not a group that wants to talk about legal situations.
Correct.
So I would just start the true freshman, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. I believe he was a 4-star, so he's a talented kid. Brother of Hank Bachmeier. He spent time at Boise State and Wake Forest, who was a fan favorite of mine. So I also have some personal bias there. But I agree, and Kalani Sitake has always done well at maximizing his talent. So I do expect whoever plays to, even if there's growing pains, put up a pretty solid season. Aside from that, other key I mentioned Chase Roberts had 854 yards and a couple touchdowns last year. They have a I can't see his name. Is it Isaiah Jott, offensive tackle? I don't know if I pronounced his last name correctly, but he's a force for them outside.
That's a weird Jatte. Could be like Yate.
It could be Yate. I don't know. But he graded out really highly last year. He returns, and then defensively, Tanner Wall is the kind of quarterback of the defense for them. Had 53 tackles and a couple picks last year. But yeah, another question I have for y'all. So their defense was great in 2024, which is a rarity for the Big 12. But something I noticed while doing my research is a lot of the defenses that, even though they were good, the pass rush as a whole is just not great in the Big 12. A lot of teams struggle to get after the quarterback. It would be like, yeah, they limited the passing yards, or they're really good against the run, but they'd have like 20 sacks on the season or 22 sacks on the season, stuff like that. So ideally they'd be able to repeat their good defense, but get into the backfield more, create some more negative plays. I guess that's not really a question for y'all. But yeah, what do y'all see from this team, I guess, overall next season?
I'll be interested to see. I feel like a lot of the narrative last year around BYU, and the reason that even when they started the season 9-0 and they were only ever ranked in the teens, I think, like 15, 14, 13,
Sure.
somewhere in there. I think a lot of the narrative was around like strength of schedule, a weak strength of schedule. I'll be interested to see, even if they repeat a successful season, how far that gets them. Because if you look at the schedule again, it's just not great. They play Portland. They open the season with Portland State. Stanford is not, I don't think, going to be a very big boost as far as out-of-conference games go.
Yeah.
East Carolina, I don't think is a huge boost. And then in the conference, they play West Virginia, who I'm low on, Arizona, who I'm low on, UCF, who we're low on. I don't really know, even if they have a successful season as far as schedule-wise goes. I mean, they went 11-2 last, or 11. Yeah, they went 10-2 in the regular season, and didn't make the playoffs, which they shouldn't have. They weren't even like close. I think they finished. Did they finish outside the top 25? Did they get dropped?
I don't remember, but they play 5. To your point, 5 of the bottom 7 of the odds in the Big 12.
Yeah.
So yeah, the schedule's weak.
The schedule is very weak.
But
so
there's still, I mean, kind of marquee games on there. You go win at Texas Tech, win at Iowa State, beat Utah, beat Colorado. Like, there's places to make statements. I agree that their win total can maybe get a little inflated overall. But I don't want to dog on them too much.
They had those statements last year. They beat at SMU. They won. They beat Kansas State.
So you're saying they weren't a good team last year, or like they weren't deserving of?
No. I was high. I had them ranked higher.
okay.
I think
I'm pretty sure you had them at like 6 or 7.
I'm pretty sure I had them in my top 10 when they were 9-0.
Gotcha.
You
Gotcha.
definitely
So,
had them in your top 10.
I'm saying, if they were 9-0, if a team is undefeated and they've got wins against Iowa State and they've got wins against Colorado and Texas Tech, I will be higher on them. But I'm saying as far as a committee goes, because Week 11 they play Texas Tech, we'll be getting committee rankings at that point. I don't know. I'm sorry, my bad. I don't know how far this schedule is going to get them because we saw how far a similar schedule got them last year, and it was mid-teens and then punished pretty severely when they lost. They lost to Kansas, who was not a great team last year, I don't think, and then Arizona State, which was Arizona State ended up making the playoffs. I'm just curious, what do y'all think about the schedule, and what would you say they need to do against this schedule to have success or to make a playoff push?
I mean, I don't see them making a playoff push. I mean, if you look, they have the 8th best odds to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
So, like, even if they have a good season, I think it'd take something pretty magical to
Undefeated.
to go on a run and make the playoffs. I don't really think that
was the big thing on BYU. Josh Pate touched on a ton, but it was also touched on by ESPN and any network that talked about it, and I'm sure the committee had the same stats in front of them. Metrically, they were not great from a metric standpoint. They were never ranked in the JP poll for Josh Pate. He only put him in there because of an exception.
Yeah.
They were not. I don't think they ever got into the top 35 on his poll. I don't think he ever said that.
He had to override it.
I think it was more so. Well, yes, they had some marquee wins. They weren't that great of a team, and it was just a argument of you are what your record says you are.
correct.
With them, and that may be the case again this year, but I don't think it's going to be. I think the quarterback situation lowers the floor a ton.
But
I think the conversation we're happening right now has no importance because I don't think they'll ever be in a spot this season.
I guess my
to
point is
need
that
to.
even with the new quarterback, their schedule is so weak that they could still get to not like 10-2.
Yeah, but I think the big thing here is like a new quarterback, but it's a big drop from Retzlaff, even if Retzlaff is not high for you, and it's also this is a freshman college quarterback.
Yeah.
It's not similar to it's not like the NFL where you're talking about like, okay, this is Justin Fields starting at quarterback. No, it's a freshman in college of 130 schools instead of 32.
Yeah.
I think that's much more a larger part of the picture, regardless of how the schedule is. Now, you could make the same argument, flip it on its head, and say, well, the teams are actually worse spread out because they are spread out compared to the NFL.
Sure.
But I think it's the latter on that end of that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you say their schedule is really weak, and it is probably on the weaker side, but there's still 5 games they may be underdogs in, depending on how things shake out. So, I mean, I just don't expect them to be in a spot where we're having the same conversation as we did last year. With that being said, what is their over-under?
I'm pulling it up now because
Cool.
I just realized I was using a CBS article, and the article was posted in March.
So odds have probably
so
changed a little bit.
Retzlaff was not there.
Yeah.
So I've got it right now, 6.5, which is it was 7.5.
Well, I was about to say, that being said, I don't expect them to be in the playoff conversation. I will expect them to hit the over of 6.5 wins.
Yeah,
Someone has to go under. BYU's going to go under.
Okay, fair.
I'm taking the over. I've already got my under knocked out. I can have the rest of the teams go
Week
over.
4, big week. Look out for that against the Pirates. I don't expect them to
Bet.
win that game.
Let's keep rolling.
I'll have a friend in the stands for that one.
Cincinnati, the Bearcats.
Yeah, who cares? Move on.
we'll knock them out quick.
Yeah, you just want to pick the over under, and then no, I'm kidding.
Cincinnati went 5-7 last year. Their head coach is Scott Satterfield. Needless to say, it's not been the smoothest transition to power conference play for Cincinnati. They've had a couple years under 500. It's been pretty clear the talent on the roster hasn't been up to snuff to compete week in and week out against these power teams. I do think it's slowly getting there. The real question is this the year it is here? Their quarterback is Brendan Sorsby, who had 2,800 yards last year through 18 touchdowns and 7 picks. Can run a little bit. He added 9 rushing touchdowns. The biggest issue for him last year is there are just no weapons, and so that's one of the biggest things. This year is have they added the weapons to help him succeed, help their team succeed, and win some games? The biggest addition I wanted to highlight, because it's just a group of transfers at wide receiver for them that are looking to start. Cyrus Allen, an Aggie. I'm an Aggie fan, so I'm familiar with his game. Only had 269 yards last year, but suffered a season-ending injury about halfway through the season. I do think he's fairly talented. He put up big numbers at South Alabama the year before, I believe. So pretty talented guy. I think he could help outside a little bit. And then on the defense side of the ball, I want to highlight Matthew McDoom, because that's a fire name. He's transferring in from Coastal Carolina at cornerback, but he had 3 picks last year and 36 tackles. But yeah, once again, the question I want to lob to y'all is, do you think the roster's finally at a point where they can compete in a power conference?
No, but I think in large part it's due to the coaching.
Sure.
Scott Satterfield, point blank, is not as good as their prior coach, who I just had, Luke Fickell. So I think that's a large part of it. I think that's hurting them a little bit recruiting. They'll know immediately if they are in that first game against Nebraska, because that's a Big Ten team. Decently high expectations in-house there at Nebraska with Matt Rule and Patrick Mahomes Jr. So they'll know immediately. And they also, if they fail that test, and then they'll have another test 2 weeks later against Northwestern, who's in the bottom tier of that Big Ten. But if they fail that test, then they'll know for sure. That I think those are actually more so 2 more important games. Not that anyone will talk about the result of that game outside of Nebraska, Cincinnati, and Northwestern. But I think that quietly behind the scenes tells the story of how big is the gap between the Big 12 and the Big 10. If you're looking at lower tier teams in both of these conferences, how big is that gap? That's going to be a big thing with the Auburn-Baylor game, Mississippi State, Arizona State game, where those are high on the Big 12, low in the SEC, and that tells a big part of the story. But this can tell just as much of the story in those 2 games for the Bearcats this year. But I don't think the roster is there yet, no.
Yeah.
I was just looking at their recruiting. They just finished their first year in the Big 12. I think that's right.
I thought it was their second. Yeah.
Okay, they're not listed. Oh, there they are. I just missed them. Yeah, they're recruiting last year or this year in 2025. They finished 14th out of 16th as far as recruiting rankings in the Big 12 go. The year before, they were 8th out of 16th. It's just, I don't think that they have made the steps necessary, like you said, as far as talent goes, to kind of hang with the big guys in the Big 12 yet. So I would definitely say they are not there as far as making the jump from G5 to Big 12 play goes.
What's that over-under, sir?
Over-under is 5, and hold on, I just had it. 6.5. 6.5.
Ooh. I'm going to take the under.
Same.
I could see a 6-win season happening, I guess, but it's just an incomplete roster, in my opinion, and I agree with JP. Scott Satterfield is not a head coach that I really trust to lead a team through adversity and find some big wins when maybe the talent is stacked against them. So I'm taking the under.
Yeah, and they're bottom 10. Or not bottom 10. They are bottom 10, yes, but they're 10th best odds in the Big 12. And in a 16-team conference that plays 9 conference games, that's probably more losses than wins. So I would favor the under as well there.
Yeah, especially, you have Nebraska's. I'm not high on Nebraska, but I do imagine Nebraska is not going to be an easy out-of-conference game. You do get them at home, but we'll see how that goes.
That'll be interesting. Will that make the quad box Cincinnati, Nebraska?
Week 1's got some heaters.
Probably not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Let's keep rolling. Colorado.
Good work, team. That was.
If we ever get to the NFL one day of college football, that might be a game that would make a quad box.
Sure.
But we're not there yet. Does anyone want to lead this?
You got it.
Okay. You got it, JP. I'm comfortable not leading anything. I'm doing enough over here. You got it.
The Colorado Buffaloes lose their 2 superstars, Shedeur Sanders and Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter. Dion had huge questions in the past month of will he coach again. Many accounts on Twitter posted that he will retire soon in a press conference. He came into that press conference and said that essentially he had a procedure. I forgot what it was, but he'd removed cancer from his body. and that he was good with that problem, and he was going to coach this season. And so screw you to all those Twitter accounts that were making that a big claim and just rage baiting and whatever.
Engagement farmers.
Yeah, engagement farming. Their first big question is replacing Shador Sanders. They bring in Kadon Salter from Liberty. Boo, as Jack would say.
Terrible
also
school.
Flipped a huge recruit in Julian Lewis, a 5-star, who reclassified to be a year younger and now joins the Colorado Buffaloes, and he has potential to start this season. Receiver room has lost a lot of the household names, but one to look out for is Draylon Miller this year. Offensive line, they have one of the better offensive tackles in college football in Jordan Seaton, and he expects to be good this year. Defensively, Jaheim Otis. He was banged up and didn't play much last year, but he's expected to be kind of a star on that defensive front. And then I'll point out 2 more defenders as well. DJ McKinney, who last year had 62 combined tackles. 44 of them were solo. He had 3 picks and 1 forced fumble. And then Preston Hodge is someone to look out for me. He didn't start last year because he was cornerback 4, but he played in the slot, and he played 9 games. And in those 9 games, he had 2 picks and 7 pass deflections. I expect him to be kind of one of their premier corners in a group that has lost Travis Hunter playing corner for them. So look out for Preston Hodge. The question for them this season is how much does this offense look without Travis or Shador? They were abysmal from a running perspective throughout Shador's career at Colorado, but especially last year. Their leading rusher last year, Sanders, under 400 rushing yards.
I'm going to take the under.
Under at 384, Isaiah Augustave had 384 rushing yards, and then they had 3 other running backs who had 200 or less. That's going to be a huge thing for them. Can they run the ball? Because running the ball, I think, is a large part and the reason why Shador got 8 alive throughout his career at Colorado, because they didn't run the ball well, meaning they were passing a ton, and that meant the pass rushers really got to Shador, and he got hit a bunch. And that, I think, is something you don't want for Kadon Salter if he is your starter, and we expect him to be. But also for Julian Lewis, they want him to be a star. They want him to be just as big as Shador was there at Colorado. Julian wants that as well. That's why he chose to go play with Deion Sanders.
I mean, Jack made the point that Julian went to Big 12 Media Days with Salter, which is, I mean, I think most teams only take like 4 guys to Media Days. So to be a freshman and to be selected for that is definitely something they're trying to push, is to get him into the spotlight as early as much as possible.
And if he doesn't start a game this season, it may even be better for him to develop that way and to potentially even redshirt. But he wants to be a star of this program, and they want him to be a star of this program as well. It's huge to land that recruit. And for Deion's success and his future at Colorado, he is going to be a huge part of that story. Shador and Travis carried him a little bit through these first 2 years at Colorado, and especially last year, getting them in the Big 12 championship conversation. In fact, just 2 games outside of it. 1 game outside of it. But they need Juju to be good in the future, and they'll need Kadon Salter to be good this year. I would rather talk about their team this year, though. What do we expect? They're still going to be in the national media. They're going to be on TV a ton. They have a big game to open the season, hosting Georgia Tech and the Yellow Jackets and Haynes King, Aggie legend.
Facts.
On a Friday night game as well. So they're going to be in primetime spots like that throughout the season. What do we expect from the Buffaloes in their first year without the 2 studs?
Yeah. It's going to look a ton different. I'm very interested to see how the offense looks, because not only do you lose Shador and Travis and like guys like Jimmy Horn and stuff too, I think their losses being a little underrated because of how good Shador and Travis were for them. But you bring in Kadon Salter, who I expect to start. I know there's Juju Lewis buzz, but I think at least to start the season, Kadon Salter is going to start. He's a completely different quarterback than Shador. Shador was kind of your in-the-pocket guy, poised, accurate. Kadon Salter's your improviser. Get outside the quarterback. He'll run a lot. I think he had like 7 rushing touchdowns or something last
Yeah.
year.
7, yeah.
Yeah, he's not a pocket passer. He'll do some play action, but yeah, he's best improvising outside the pocket. So are they going to change all the offense for him and let him kind of play that style? Because also for a running game that wasn't very good, that's one way to help it is get your quarterback to run, right?
I'll be very surprised if they don't.
They're going to
Very,
have to if
very
they start him. If
surprised.
not, you go Juju.
The way it feels like Dion is going to coach is he's going to coach to his players and
I
not
agree.
to a scheme.
Yeah.
And while he's only had Shador Sanders in his collegiate coaching career, I expect that to be the case going forward with whatever quarterbacks he has is coach to the player. Because ultimately, like, and I've listened to a lot of Dion interviews, that is what he wants to be. He doesn't necessarily care about winning a ton of games.
He's a players guy.
He wants to develop players. He wants to make grown men out of young boys, which is something he'll say a lot. And I think because of that, he'll cater to whatever kind of talent he has on that Buffalo roster.
I agree. I'm just not positive that drastic of a shift with like the offensive line issues and stuff too is really gonna yield great results. So with that in mind, they were a game outside the conference championship last year. I don't really expect them to be quite that good this year. Probably hovering right around 500, maybe a game above,
What's
game
their
below
win
is where I'm
total?
at.
Well, I was gonna. Could you want to give me like 5 seconds? Guess what is their over under?
6.5.
5.5.
Shit.
Yeah, it's low.
I'll take the over because it's Dion, and I do think there's some talent here and there on the roster, even if it's not complete. So yeah, I said right around 500. They could win 6 games.
Georgia Tech is a tough game. They've got Delaware. Houston could be tough. Wait, I can't even remember now if Houston's good or not.
Houston's not very good.
Thank you. I've been looking.
Now they're not
looking at
viewing.
too many
They don't
teams today.
expect Colorado to be that good either.
Correct.
But
Wyoming, Arizona, West Virginia. I think I'm gonna take the under. It's a lot of new teams, or not a lot. A lot of new things going on for this team. New quarterback, potentially new system. Right? It's not just the whole. Now everyone who's left over from last year's team they have to change the way they play for a new system potentially to cater to Caden Salter, which makes the most sense. You don't want Salter playing in a system he's not comfortable with, but now everyone else they're gonna have to change everything. I'm gonna take the under.
I would put a lot of money on the under, actually. I think. I'm curious what the odds on that are, but I would guess
Minus 120.
Okay, I wouldn't. Those odds are terrible. But I would bet.
I'm
the
sorry,
under.
that's over. The under is minus 102.
Ooh, then I would put 3 times the amount of money I would on minus 120. I think those are good odds for under 5.5. It really gets dicey down the stretch trying to pick a game for them to win. Post the first bye week at Utah.
sure.
Hosting Arizona, at West Virginia, hosting Arizona State, and then at Kansas State. Like, pick your win there. I don't. Maybe they win hosting Arizona.
Maybe they win on the road against West Virginia.
Maybe they win, against West Virginia.
Is West
in
Virginia
Morgantown.
last in the preseason?
No,
No,
they're not.
14.
14th out of 16th. Okay,
Yes, but
they're down there.
They are down.
yeah, I would put money on the under.
Sure.
Personally, I think, and a large part of that is I think the Shador loss is devastating, absolutely massive.
He was there. I mean, yeah, he did it all last year for him. Shall we move on to Houston?
That's a fantastic end. Houston. Hold up, Houston. Cougars. There we go. Had to think about it for a sec. Too long, honestly. I should know that. They were in the championship in basketball like 3 months ago. I should know this.
Yeah, no, he doesn't know ball, unfortunately. But the Houston Cougars are still trying to find their way in the Big 12. They went 4-8 last year with Willie Fritz at the helm in, I believe, his second year. And the odds makers don't expect them to be much better this year. They have the 12th best odds to win the Big 12. They got in a couple of big transfers, though, I will say. Connor Wiegman from A&M, former 5-star QB. His time at Texas A&M was riddled with injuries. Had 819 passing yards last year, only 3 touchdowns and 5 picks. But once again, riddled with injuries. He played through a shoulder injury before getting benched.
How many games was that in? Not a lot.
5 or 6, I think.
Okay.
That's got to be 5.
I think it was 5 games. If Houston fans, if you want to get excited about him, turn on the Missouri tape because he started that game and dropped 40 on him. Now the rushing attack was a big part of that, but he made some nice throws. They bring in Amari Thomas, a wide receiver from UAB, who had 8 touchdowns there last year. And then Tanner, I don't know if I'm going to butcher this last name, but Kaziel, a tight end from Ball State, had 94 receptions and 839 passing yards last year. Was third in the nation in receptions behind Tyler Warren and Harold Fannin. Both broke records at the tight end position last year. So that's a big get. He's 6'7", a huge security blanket contested catch guy. I think he had 24 contested catches last year, which was the most in the nation. So a target, I think Connor Weigman will become very much. He'll become very reliant on him. But overall, they're in a tough spot. They just struggle to keep talent on the team. They lost A.J. Halsey to LSU, and Jeremiah Wilson went to Florida State. Both stars in their secondary. They were phenomenal for them last year. So it's hard to garner momentum and move forward and try and win more games year to year when you're losing some of your best players to the portal. So my biggest question is simply, do y'all think they can build momentum this year? Do you think Weigman's a guy that can come in and garner some momentum, play well, kind of play closer to his 5-star pedigree? Or do you think kind of the lack of weapons they have surrounding him, stuff like that, is going to be a big issue?
They won't be good this year, point
Sure.
blank.
Yeah.
For one, they're not competitive enough in the NIL, and for a Texas school, they're kind of underwhelming in that department. And I think that's a large part in the reason you lose a ton of these guys in the portal. That feels like it's the main factor right now.
Agreed.
In discussions with a player coming to your school or not, what matters the most right now is the dollar amount, not the development, not the chance to win a championship, not the chance to build your personal brand. It's how much dollar can you put in my pocket. And so because they're not competitive enough in the NIL, that is, I think, in large part the reason that you lose out on players like that.
Yeah.
And the ability to return them and be competitive. And unfortunately for Houston, that is going to be the reason that they are going to, I think, continue to struggle. 12th best odds in the Big 12, and I don't expect this season to go well for them either, even with Connor Weigman, the former 5-star. Injuries aside, I don't think even in the games he was necessarily healthy, he really showed up to that 5-star potential.
He flashed it, but it was never consistent.
There were flashes, but I think for a 5-star, it's not. You're not
Agreed.
looking for flashes.
Yeah.
You're looking for at a baseline. Just
That being said,
consistent play.
I do think it's a good get for Houston, considering they're
Absolutely.
not competitive in NIL. He's a Houston kid. You can try and drum up some interest that way. But yeah, that's a good point.
The ceiling is, I'm just looking back at some of his stats. His 2022 Ole Miss game, he had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 338 yards.
Same year against Miami, he played
Ranked
fantastic.
at number 50. Yep, Miami. Wait, no, Miami was the next year. That was 23.
Oh yeah.
Miami, he put up 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 336 yards.
The interceptions were it was late game trying to make plays down.
New
big,
Mexico. It was he had 5 touchdowns, 236 yards. It was New Mexico. So the ceiling is definitely there, but we haven't seen him string it together for more than a game or two. He's got wins on his record, but some of them are against lesser opponents, ULM, New Mexico. I don't think that they're going to be able to string it together. I'm not sitting now. Could he lead this team to an upset win over a Texas Tech or over a Baylor? Maybe, but we're not talking.
Sure.
We're not talking above 500 probably. We're talking like 2 wins, 3 wins that he could get, and then they'll win the couple of games like a Stephen F. Austin. But the expectations are pretty low for him here at Houston.
Yeah. What do we got the over under at?
Over under is lost it, finding it. Big 12 Houston 5.5.
I'm gonna take the under. Yeah.
Taking the under.
Just not enough talent to hang in this league and win week to week. So 5 wins maybe.
Yeah, that's what I've got. Iowa State. Somebody.
I can take it. I think
Take it
I think
away.
I did them. So went 11-3 last year. Led once again by Matt Campbell, who's become a household name in college football, known as one of the better coaches. People keep wondering if he's going to jump ship, but I believe he just got extended. So shout out to him. He's making like $5 million a year now. Key players for them, guys to look out for: Rocco Becht at QB, in his third year there now. He put up 3,500 passing yards last year, threw for 25 touchdowns, had 9 picks. The engine of their team. Carson Hansen coming back at running back for them. He had 752 yards and 13 touchdowns for them last year. Of note, though, the key losses offensively. They lose Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, their 2-star wide receivers last year. Both go to the Houston Texans. They're going to have to find a way to replace them. Maybe the options are in-house, guys they brought in the transfer portal. Regardless, though, for a team that doesn't always have the most talent, replacing those 2 guys is going to be tough. And then defensively, a couple guys to look out for. Jeremiah Cooper, safety, had 48 tackles and 2 picks for them last year. Another leader of the defense there. And then Akina Ezugu had 19 tackles and 1 sack for them last year. So he's a guy to look out for as well on the defense. My biggest question is Rocco Beck going to perform the same without those 2 wide receivers?
I would say no. I mean, I feel like I'm trying to pull the depth chart. Do you
Sure.
know who they have kind of as replacements? Did they go transfer portal or?
It was a mix of both, I
Okay.
believe. I don't have any on the top of my head. I should have wrote one down, but I think needless to say, they didn't make the key players list.
Yeah,
so
they've got
no stars.
2 transfers projected to start: Xavier Townsend and Chase Sowell.
I believe they brought in some guys from lower levels as well. So
Townsend came from UCF,
yeah.
and Chase came from Colorado. So
Okay, so same level.
Yeah.
But
he had 678 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. So not remarkable play, but depending on your faith in Rocco Becht and whether or not, if you think the wide receivers were elite and he was dependent on them, or if you think that he was very good and the wide receivers benefited from that, then those wide receivers that they brought in could definitely be adequate replacements.
sure.
I think he's going to perform just as well. In fact, I think he has a chance to perform better. Yes, last year was his redshirt sophomore season. He started his redshirt freshman season. His numbers that year were 3,100, 23 touchdowns. But the big thing for me is freshman redshirt starting 8 picks. Last year, 9 picks. And like I said earlier, not turning over the football is a large part in winning these games, and he is good at that. He's shown that. Only throwing 17 picks through 2 seasons being a starter. I think he's gonna take another step potentially, and I think maybe we're talking about him a year from now as a guy who, he has a good season. He's draft potential on him. I like what I see when I watch him. I watched highlights of him today during my lunch break, and while the loss of Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins, can't be understated.
Sure.
Is that the right use of that phrase?
It can't be overstated?
It can't be overstated. Do you think it was a big loss?
Yes.
Then it can't be overstated.
It can't be overstated.
You cannot say it enough how important they were.
I believe in Rocco Becht. I think he's been consistent, especially through 2 years, and he's still technically not in his college football prime.
Yeah.
He's draft eligible after this year, so he really should.
He was a
have
redshirt freshman last year.
He was last year was his redshirt sophomore year.
So he was draft eligible.
You have to play through your junior season.
That was his 3rd year. He was a redshirt sophomore.
Yes, but he got redshirted, so he's
You can go as a redshirt sophomore.
You can go
Okay.
Johnny Manziel when his
whatever,
redshirt
man.
sophomore.
Whatever, man. Y'all are just liars. Regardless, okay, cool. He's draft eligible. Well, he didn't go in the draft, and he won't go in the draft after this year. But I think he's going to play better this year than he did last year. I think he's solid quarterback.
Fair.
I don't know if we're going to do it at some point, but he would be in whatever that ranking is that we might do. But I don't think we're going to do it. So.
We'll do it over text, and I'll post it.
Sure. I would think I'd put him up there in that class.
That's fair. Second question I have for y'all real quick. They only had they had 16 sacks last year, which was the worst mark in the Big 12. Kind of looking at the guys they brought in. I already mentioned one of them, Akina Eziogu. When I mentioned him, you're probably like, okay, 19 tackles and 1 sack. Why is he getting mentioned? He's projected to start on the edge as a returner because they just don't really have good edge rushers. They didn't really bring in great talent there either in the transfer portal. Across from him is probably going to be Tomato. That's not actually his name, but sorry. Tomatau McDonough, who's coming from Yale, so a lower level. I'm very worried that the pass rush isn't going to improve.
Yeah.
Now, aside from that, they had a solid defense last year, but that could really take them up a level. Do y'all have any concerns about that?
I mean, I am a firm. If the guys didn't show, like if you had 16 tackles last year and 16 sacks last year and you didn't take steps to improve that, I would have some concerns.
Very fair.
Unless Matt Campbell is very confident in his ability to develop those guys in the offseason, which I wouldn't be the most confident in, given it's the Big 12 and defense is not the strong suit of that conference. So I'd be pretty concerned.
They had 16 sacks last year.
Yes.
They won 11 games.
Yes.
So even if they didn't make improvements there, they won 11 games last year despite 16 sacks. So if there's even a marginal improvement there, one could argue they would win the national championship. But I think because of that, even if there's a marginal improvement, they shouldn't expect a deep drop. I like
you can't really get worse
defensively. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to get worse than almost one sack a game. Dominique Orange, which great name, defensive tackle. He's high on a PFF top 70, top 80. And then Jontez Williams was really good for them last year. He had 4 picks, which is substantial for a corner in college football in a season. Led the Big 12 in picks last year. I don't expect the defense to necessarily take a huge step back because they didn't lose a lot on the defense.
Yeah.
And regardless of sacks, they won 11 games despite not having a pass rush.
Yeah.
They showed they could work around the weakness for sure.
I think they'll work around that and shouldn't have any trouble there. My biggest thing for them this year is just going to be week 0. Like that Kansas State game, I think, is huge. In our recent history, the team that has won that game has gone on to have a pretty good season. Notre Dame comes to mind. Of course, Georgia Tech last year.
Yeah.
And then the team that has lost it, at least in the recent history, has had a terrible season in Florida State last year. So that could be a
swing game.
A swing game for an entire season. And it's a big game too. It's Iowa State, Kansas State. That's no pushover.
It's a conference game. You're starting you're kind of defining or potentially defining how your season could go as far as conference championship push, week 0.
Their first 3 weeks, which are just really the only first 2 actual weeks, mattered more than I think the rest of their entire season. That first game and then hosting Iowa matters a ton.
Sure.
Winning that game means a ton. That's one of course, all the in-state rivalries are rivalries, but that's one of the more bitter rivalries between an in-state opponents. So I think those first 3 weeks are huge for them in their season, but I expect them to play well. I don't have them winning week 0, though.
Yeah, it also goes back to, like, winning Iowa helps boost your conference as far as how it's viewed. So we were talking about it earlier with Auburn and Baylor.
Yeah.
And that's another one of those. While Iowa is probably a little bit above, like as far as Auburn and the SEC goes, Iowa's probably above that in the Big Ten. But it's just beneficial to your conference, especially if the Big 12 is trying to push for more teams in the playoff as we determine what that's going to look like going forward. Having wins against Big Ten and SEC teams is beneficial.
Gotcha.
Win total? Thoughts? Yes.
8.5.
7.5.
It is 7.5.
I got
Cool.
over.
I also have the over on these boys.
Yeah, that is very low.
Yeah.
One of the lower. Actually, there were some other pretty extreme ones, but that's a pretty big. That's one of the larger disparities we've seen between last season's record and then this year's projections.
Yeah. I mean, when you bring back Rocco back, Matt Campbell has proven he's a kind of a more with less coach. Even if they don't always have the most talented roster, he finds ways to field competitive teams and win games. So I'll definitely take the over on 7.5.
All right. Kansas. All right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams left.
We're halfway there.
We're halfway through. Schubert.
Give me the over-under on Kansas.
The over-under on Kansas is 6.5.
Yeah, they've got new season or new stadium. Lance Leopold returns. Jalen Daniels returns. He's supposed to be a big star. They had a disappointing season last year, and Jalen Daniels was kind of underwhelming last year. Heisman talk after 2022. I'm going to steal y'all's notes. 23 preseason. He was first team All Big 12, which I'll remind you was
Included
still a
Oklahoma.
year where Texas and Oklahoma were in the conference. So this is a guy who has had a ton of hype on him. Unfortunately, he is the worst of the J. Daniels.
I was gonna say there at that time it was the Daniels, like they were like there was like a jokes and memes about you getting them mixed up because they were the same.
Yeah.
And then it just one went up and one went down.
Year 6 of Lance Leopold, 22 and 28 at Kansas, which is actually pretty good for their football group.
Facts.
They have not been good recruiting wise in the Big 12, but they need Jalen Daniels to play better this year. For them to be productive this year, but 6.5, I would lean towards the under. Week 2 is huge for them.
Yeah.
At Missouri, it's a revival of one of the greater rivalries in college football, which there are too many of them to count, but that is one of them. And that's a huge game for them this year. But I don't have high expectations, and I would lean under on their 6.5.
I think I will take the over. They bring in a lot. They're projected to start 11 transfers this year, so a lot of new pieces. They bring in a 4-star linebacker from South Carolina in Bengali Kamara. They've got 2 former 4-stars who spent time at Alabama in Emmanuel Henderson at wide receiver, which we mentioned earlier. If you get recruited to play wide receiver at Alabama, you have something. It didn't work out there for him. And then they bring in Jaleel Hurley, cornerback from Alabama, who spent his freshman year. Actually, Henderson was a running back. He transitioned. So he was a running back at Alabama, went there, and then transitioned to wide receiver. They also bring back their they returned Dean Miller, who led the team in sacks last year with 9. And then they have the greatest center in 2024, Bryce Foster.
Former Aggie, Gig'em.
Yeah. I will be interested to see what Jalen Daniels looks like because the hype has been there so much for him. And it's been tough watching his career because he had that elite 2022 and then hurt for 2023 and missed 9 games, and then just had a very down 2024.
Sure. He's got to learn to not try and hit the home run ball every time.
Yeah.
He's one that has become known for trying to force everything basically. But he's also played a lot of football. So at this point, it's like it feels a little bit of a stretch to be like, oh, he's just finally going to settle down and play within the offense. So I'm gonna take the under. I'll say they hit 6 wins, but not. They won't hit the 7 required to hit the over. So
he has played a lot of football, but not with these guys. They've got out of the 3 starting wide receivers and a running back, they're all transfers. So these are 4 new skill position players, 3 wide receivers and a running back that he has not played a game with before. But 3 of them are seniors, so I'll be interested to see is there like some sort of do they bring maturity and experience that you don't see when you're starting freshmen and sophomores out of high school?
Maybe.
Can they make that click? But I'm gonna take the over. I've got them winning. I'll say 7 games.
Sure.
But, yeah.
Now we can move on to their in-state counterpart, the Wildcats of Kansas State. JP?
Yes, Kansas State Wildcats. They are my pick to win the Big 12 this year out of Manhattan, Kansas. Avery Johnson comes into his second year as the starter. Started a few games as a freshman, but his second year as a full-time starter. Dylan Edwards, running back transfer from Colorado, returns for another year. They have a full transfer wide receiver room except for J.C. Brown, who was on the team last year and had almost 900 yards and 5 touchdowns. Defensively, you got 2 guys to look at. Austin Romaine, who had 96 combined tackles last year, 3 forced fumbles, and 8 TFLs. He's really fun to watch on tape, too. I watched his highlights.
Hype.
VJ Payne, a safety for them, had 39 slow tackles, which was 3rd on the team in slow tackles, as well as 2 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles. So there's some playmakers for this team. But the big thing and the big reason that I'm picking them to win the Big 12 is if you look at last season, the story of last year really was just embarrassing losses. Blown out at BYU 38-9. And then they had a road loss to a 4-8 Houston. Then they lost to Arizona State and Iowa State. who were in the Big 12 title game. This year, if you look at their schedule, and if you don't mind pulling that up, they don't play Arizona State, which is huge for them. Getting to avoid them is really massive for this run for me. Not really even hosting. Iowa State at Ireland is big. I think they're going to win that game, and I think they'll be in a good spot the rest of the year. And then looking at their road games, at Arizona, which is one of the weaker in the conference, at Baylor can be tough, but at Kansas is not going to be realistically very tough. At Oklahoma State,
Cakewalk.
shouldn't be tough at all. The at Utah game kind of scares me, but I feel like that's the one game they lose this entire season in their route to the Big 12.
Sure.
And I think 2 wins should put you in some kind of tiebreaker for the Big 12, but 1 loss is what guarantees you're in the Big 12 title game, and I have them getting to 1 loss and reaching the Big 12 title game. I expect Avery Johnson to take another step. He doesn't have the pressure on him this year. He's not being talked about. I talked about it at the beginning of the Big 12 recap. Like, last year he had the 8th highest odds to win the Heisman Trophy for a sophomore in his first season starting at quarterback, only starting 6 games as a freshman. So he's going to have way lower expectations while they still are favorites to win the conference. And I think he's going to thrive under that. And I expect the Wildcats to be in a good spot. Because I don't expect the embarrassments to happen. And then not having to play Arizona State, I think, will help them.
Yes,
and
sir.
getting to host a team like Texas Tech, who's tied for them in the favorite odds, is huge for them as well this year.
Yeah.
I expect the Wildcats to be in the Big 12 title game, and because of that, I think they've got a chance to win it, and I think they will win it.
Yeah, they're definitely a very good team. I'm not sure if I completely agree about Avery Johnson taking a step. I'm just a little worried about his long-term projection as a passer. That being said, fantastic runner, great in play action. If he could find a way to just hit a couple more throws a game, especially when they're down and they have to pass, if he could just get a little bit better in that area, I think that's a huge improvement for this team. So while I don't actually know if I see another step for him, like a big step, I think he's still definitely a QB that can be very productive and you can win with. Do we have an over-under for this team, or do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'll
Sanders?
give you the over-under. It went away again. I got to scroll down. Big 12, Kansas
8.5.
State. 8.5.
I'll take the over. I know JP's taking the over. It'd be crazy to say
I'll take
they're
the over.
your team to win the Big 12 and take the under.
Yeah, I think I'll also take the over. The schedule does look pretty light as far as. Yeah, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take the over there.
Huge.
I think they can get 9 wins out of that schedule. Oklahoma State.
What happened to Oklahoma State last year, man?
Somewhat-
Preseason top 25. People had high hopes for them, and then they don't win a conference game. They go 3-9. Their worst mark under Mike Gundy. He's been there like 20 years, I believe. So just not a good look for them. And so the question becomes, how do you bounce back? Alex Bowman's not there. I believe they're looking to start a first-time QB. I'm blanking on his name.
I can pull it up.
Yeah, please do. Because it's actually a battle there, I believe.
Oh, it's right here. I don't even have to look.
Zane Flores.
Thank you, Zane Flores. I believe he's going to be the starter. So what does the offense look like under him, as well as they lose a lot of pieces? So what are the pieces they bring in? In my eyes, Sanders has it here. They're not the best crop of transfers. You want to run through them real quick, Sanders?
Yeah, so they do bring in some guys that could be good, but they also bring in 5 projected starters who, and I'll just list the schools they come from: Central Oklahoma, App State, West Georgia, Akron, and Charlotte. And these are projected starters in the Big 12. And they didn't even, I was looking at their stats, none of them, it was nothing like a wide receiver who put up 1,600 yards against lesser competition, or an edge who had 12 sacks. I mean, these were guys who were putting up average numbers in, I think, some of these schools are D2, right? Central Oklahoma is not D1.
Correct.
So it's just like, that's pretty underwhelming for me. And that's just their transfer portal. If you look at their recruiting, it's also underwhelming. Over the last 3 years, they finished 11th, 10th, and 11th in the Big 12. And that's out of 16 and 14 schools before it got larger. They haven't brought in the talent. They're losing talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They had 3 guys get drafted last year, which good for them. They did have talent there, but they're no longer on the roster. And then 2 more transferred out. They left as 4 stars, so that's more talent that's leaving. It's just the cupboards are pretty bare as far as
Sure.
talent is concerned at Oklahoma State. And it's not looked great. The outlook for this season is not great.
It's also just crazy because they were supposed to be really talented last year, and they don't win very many games. And so now they have arguably a less talented roster, and so it's like, why would I really expect them to win more games? So
Yeah, they do bring in. I didn't mention. They do have some talented guys coming
Sure.
in. They bring in J.K. Johnson, a former 5-star who spent time at LSU and Ohio State, and has not really settled. They do bring in a guy from UTEP, an edge rusher who had 6 sacks in the final 5 games of the season,
Sure,
and then Malik Charles had 2 games last year at Georgia with 2 sacks, or West Georgia. So it's just thoughts, JP. You want the over under?
I love the over-under. I think, I mean, it's been a common theme for me through all these teams, but how much they get blasted by Oregon kind of tells maybe their story of how
That
that season.
could get very ugly.
Yeah.
I expect it to get very ugly.
I think it's a great point made. The transfers coming in are, it feels like group of 5 guys playing power 4 uniforms.
Yeah.
Like that is kind of the what is occurring here, because like you said, they don't have necessarily super productive numbers, and a lot of the transfers that we've seen have, like the tight end transfers, specifically at Iowa State, and then there's another one at Texas Tech who I'll talk about early in a little bit.
Yeah.
Were super productive for these group of 4 and even lower teams last year, and these guys aren't. They're kind of just filling a roster. It almost feels like.
Yeah.
What was the over under again?
Over under's 5.5. I was just gonna say these are the guys that you bring in to fill out depth, and they take it because it means they get to play in front of 60, 70,000 people.
Not the guys you take
These
to
are not
start.
the guys that you want to start
I got
against Iowa State or
Yeah.
Arizona State.
It's like the meme that comes to mind is like he wanted Texas Tech transfer class, but didn't have Texas Tech transfer class money. So Oklahoma State transfer class it is.
Yep.
Because it's just not ideal to go for a roster overhaul, and this is the kind of group you bring in is very unideal. So I'll take the under, because also that combined with the fact you're starting a new quarterback, and that's a lot on his shoulders. I'm not the biggest fan.
I'll also take the under, and I will ask if they hit the under, so 5 wins or less. Are we talking about Gundy being out of Oklahoma State, or
He'll get another year, in my opinion. I think the conversations will definitely start, though.
I feel like, was there not some friction going into last year? Was there something? Okay, I thought there was. I can't remember what was happening. It wasn't necessarily on. It wasn't like wins and losses. I feel like there was something else that went on. And I don't remember what it was.
Well, he admitted to driving drunk. But I think he's probably just not happy with the support the team is getting.
Yeah.
Financially.
JP.
I hate that they don't play Oklahoma anymore.
Yeah.
That's really all that kind of stands out to me. Give me the
I think
under
right now
as
they're probably
well.
grateful.
No, I'd rather them just still play it anyway, because that was one of my more favorite games.
It was awesome.
I really like the Stillwater and Norman
It was elite.
battles. Even when I remember watching, both teams were good, so they mattered. But it's still a really competitive game, and it's a cool color game too,
Facts.
with Oklahoma State's orange and the Sooner red.
Yep.
Well, we all took the under. We don't predict a very good season for Oklahoma State. Let's move on to TCU, the Horned Frogs.
All right, tell me this story here of how a furry at quarterback is going to lead TCU to the Big 12 title, guys.
Well, he's not a furry.
Because I haven't seen that.
This is a bait. Fake news, because he's really that guy. So they got to try and tear him down. But last year, TCU went 9-4. Sonny Dykes at the helm. A better year than the one previously, and then the year before, they were in the title game against Michigan. But they're sitting currently with the 5th best odds.
Georgia.
Michigan. No, they beat Michigan. You're right, my bad.
They
Georgia.
kicked Michigan's butt.
Well, it was a boat race. It was a barn burner.
They destroyed Michigan.
Sure. 5th best odds to win the Big 12. Their quarterback, Josh Hoover, is back. JP claims he's a furry. He's not a furry. He's falling for screenshots and AI. Honestly, it would be fire if he was a furry, though. Could you imagine that storyline?
That's the storyline I'm rolling with.
He comes out of the tunnel game 1 in a horned frog costume.
He
See,
is the
that would be
mascot.
sick. That's
He
not
is the
furry.
mascot.
Because furries are furry. if
Okay,
that
he
makes
comes out in
sense.
a cat costume and then throws for 500 yards against North Carolina. And Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick self-combusts on the field because he's an old man and he can't understand furries.
That's a good point. That could potentially happen. I think
Man,
that's
if college football was scripted, that'd be electric.
It would be amazing. Anyway, he threw for 3,900 yards last year, 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Is not much of a runner. He's more of a pure pocket guy. Excuse me. Sanders, would you like to explain your Devin Neal stud?
Yeah, okay, so I was just looking through their depth chart, trying to find interesting pieces, and I don't know what this position is, but I use ourlads.com, which they have all the college football and NFL depth charts, and I'm sure they're not 100% correct, but it's the best source I have for all the teams. And I'm looking through it, and I look at the defense, and it's got all these guys, linebacker, safety, and then it says Devin Neal, stud. Or Devin Deal, stud. And I was like, who is Devin Deal and what is stud as
He's a
far as
stud.
defense goes? So I tweeted that and no one has liked it, but I thought it was hilarious. I was like, this is so funny.
Sure.
Yeah. They've got some pieces coming back. They also bring in some really exciting guys. They bring in Jordan Dwyer from Idaho. He was a wide receiver who we were just talking about Oklahoma State. This is the kind of guy you want to bring in from D2 schools. Is Jordan Dwyer last year put up 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, with 5 of those coming in 3 games with an 88.4 PFF grade.
Sure.
That's the kind of stuff you want to be looking for in the transfer portal. They return Eric McAllister, who last year averaged 19.5 yards per reception, which was 10th in the country. But I want to talk about something that makes this team very different from a lot of the Big 12 and a lot of college football is their ability to retain talent. So they've done a really good job of that. Right now, they're projected to start only 4 transfers. The Big 12 average is over 8. It's 8.3 transfers projected to start. And then in the last 3 recruiting classes, they have finished first in the Big 12, second in the Big 12, and third in the Big 12. And the third was behind Oklahoma and Texas. So out of the current Big 12 teams, they finished first. They bring in Joseph Manjack, who I've got down as a sleeper contributor. So he had a down year in 2024 because they made him play outside wide receiver at his previous school, which I can't remember off the top of my head.
Houston.
Thank you, Houston. The year before that, he played slot, which is where I think he'll play again this year. In the slot, he had 577 yards and 6 touchdowns in 2023. And they had a guy last year in J.P. Richardson, who's no longer in the building, who had 678 yards out of the slot.
Sure.
So I think that Josh Hoover likes to have a good slot receiver, and I expect him to make good use of Joseph Manjack. And I think he's going to put up a lot better numbers than he did last year in 2024.
Yeah, the offense looks to be elite yet again. The biggest question is the defense was really bad last year. They're entering year 2 for defensive coordinator Andy Avalos, and so it really becomes, can he get this group even just to average to where they can truly compete in this conference? Because it wasn't good enough last year to get through the schedule unscathed, because there's other great QBs in this league and other good offenses in this league that would just light them up. So hopefully they can improve. I expect them to improve. That's why I have them winning the conference. I know you have them winning the conference too, Sanders.
Yep.
JP hates furries, so he does not have them winning the
no,
conference.
I don't have them winning the conference. They've got a chance to be in the championship game. Although I don't think I'll pick them for that.
Sure.
That pick is coming up here in a second. But I'm not down on them by any means.
Yeah.
The joke is a joke that he is a furry. I will say, look out for Abilene Christian. That's not a guaranteed win, because I just watched an entire Texas Tech game earlier today, and they kind of barely scaped by Abilene Christian last year, and they're a home opener. So TCU is kind of potentially on the clock there. I'm curious to see how they'll handle North Carolina.
Same. I'm interested to see what North Carolina is going to look like this year.
North
Bill
Carolina is going to
Belichick.
be good for the ACC at least, I think. I think that's kind of hard for them to not, given the talent that they already kind of have there.
Sure.
And I'm high on Gio Lopez, but TCU should be in the same spot in the Big 12. That's a good comparison game. a good game potentially down the line that could sway some things. Winning at North Carolina might be a hard place to play this year, given the amount of buzz that's in that program. That's probably a sellout game, regardless of how high anyone is on TCU. That's probably a sellout game regardless. But I don't think they're quite there defensively enough
That's
for me
fair.
to say that this is going to be a team that can win the Big 12, even though that hasn't necessarily been the history of the Big 12. Elite offenses have won it without having anything on defense. I like Sonny Dykes. In fact, I love him. I think he's a great coach. I'm glad that they had a better season last year and that it wasn't really just a one-off. They took way too much heat and bad press for what happened in the national championship game.
Yeah.
The revisionist history on that is insane. TCU was a excellent team that year.
Yeah.
And they ran into frickin' Georgia.
Yeah.
Happens to a lot of teams.
Yeah,
a lot of really good
one
teams.
handles Georgia well, and
I'm on record as saying that 7 times out of 10, that's a good game.
I think so too.
I think that very early on, Georgia had a couple, not fluke plays, but 50-50 balls.
I think the fact that you beat essentially the Michigan team that won the national title a year later
Speaks volumes.
and they didn't just beat them. They kicked their butt for me. The game was close from a score perspective, but TCU went out there and ran and threw all over Michigan, and they got way too much negative press for how the national championship game went. But yeah, I like Sonny Dykes. I actually do like Josh Hoover. Putting that almost 4,000 yards is not nothing. So I'll be curious to see how they play.
Can we get an
this
over-under?
year.
over
Yeah,
under.
over-under.
Can y'all guess this? This one I think is absurd.
9.5.
6.5.
It is 6.5.
Wow. I'm taking the over. I'm smashing the over.
I am. Yeah, we can't both pick them as our
Yeah.
conference champion and then not
Smashing the over.
hammer the over. JP.
Under.
Wow.
I'm
He's
gonna
being
have them
bold.
going 6 and 6.
I do think
I've
part
I
got
of
think
him
the
losing
North
North Carolina,
Carolina, SMU, at Arizona State, at
Kansas State,
Kansas State,
and Baylor, and then Iowa State.
and then you lose one of those 3 road games against West Virginia, Houston, or BYU. One of them.
mm-hmm.
Lose to Iowa State or
Baylor?
Baylor.
Yeah.
That's 6 losses. I don't think that's
It's a very tough schedule for them.
unreasonable.
Especially-
I'd expect over 6.5 was favored though.
It's a very tough schedule, especially that you get the one cupcake game, though JP claims they're not a cupcake.
Yeah.
Because you play 2 Power 5 schools out of conference,
Yeah.
which is why that over-under, once again, is probably lower. But 6.5 still feels very low to
I
me. I
can't
feel very
wait.
comfortable taking the over.
I can't wait to do SMU because now SMU has showed up twice on a Big 12 schedule, and that's was it Baylor and TCU?
They're still playing the Texas schools.
Yeah. So
Imagine they show up on Texas
SMU
Tech.
schedule.
They're not going
they,
to.
Yeah, I was about to say that would
That'd
be
be
an
so
insane
crazy.
schedule by SMU.
They're not.
Yeah, I've got them going over. Me and Jack are required to legally, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
Next up,
The Mercenaries.
Texas Tech. Yeah.
So Texas Tech had a super quiet off season. Nothing happened whatsoever. No, they spent $29 million on NIL. They spent $55 million on their entirety of NIL for all of their sports programs. 29 on football, second to only Horns Down, the Texas Longhorns. Texas Tech brought in the number 1 transfer portal class, 13 4-star transfer players are coming to the Red Raiders. Shout out CT, which is not the first and only time I'll say that while I preview the Red Raiders. Defense features 4 players currently in the top 200 of PFF prospects for this year's upcoming draft. Lee Hunter is one of those. 10 TFLs, 6'4", 325, transfer from UCF. David Bailey had 7 sacks last year with 5 forced fumbles. He's transferred from Stanford. He's number 40 as a PFF prospect and the 10th ranked edge. And then Jacob Rodriguez is so fun to watch. I watched him today. 77 solo tackles last year.
It's a good number.
77 as a linebacker. 5 sacks, an interception, and 3 forced fumbles. He is a former quarterback at the University of Virginia, where he was characterized as a football player. That year he wore, I believe his number was number 97 as a freshman.
Dope.
As a quarterback,
As a quarterback
That's
at
fire.
Virginia.
that
He
is
was
sick.
used
Dog.
as a football player. He played running back. He played tight end, fullback.
Taysom Hill.
Had multiple rushing touchdowns for them. Went to Texas Tech. They transferred him to linebacker, and he's played 3 years now. And he'll be going into his this is his 3rd year at Texas Tech as a linebacker. He is super fun to watch. The 3 forced fumbles, all 3 of those are the peanut punches. Like
That's sick.
he's mastered that. And I expect him to have a few of those
It's
this
a very
year
satisfying
as well.
play to watch. It's
Yeah,
a good
it's
peanut
so
punch.
there's 2 of them that are just they're perfect. It's just punch or fist on ball, and it just pops out beautifully. But 77 solo tackles is really, really good. And then offensively is really where they're supposed to be strong this year, given the transfers that they brought in. You have the guy from A&M who transferred in. I forgot his name.
Micah Hudson.
Micah Hudson.
Former
that's right.
5-star, will be his 2nd year at Tech because he transferred to A&M, and then I think he was there at A&M practice for 1 day and then said,
that
I'm
guy,
going
yeah,
back.
The wide receiver.
Yes. But
He's a star.
Does he count
the
as a
making.
transfer?
Did they do that to boost their rankings? They're like, you leave and
he
then
is
come
on.
back.
He's on the transfer portal class
Really?
for this year. Yes.
That's so
so
crazy.
that's wild.
So yes,
They
he
gamed the
counts as a
system.
transfer. But Morton, their quarterback, 3,300 yards last year, 27 touchdowns, 8 picks, 63.3% completion percentage. He throws a beautiful jump ball into the end zone. He's great at throwing on time. He can fit it into windows. Throws the deep ball well. When I watched him play, he's like, okay, that is an above average collegiate quarterback. But he's going to have to deal with a ton of pressure and tension this year, Texas Tech, because of the money they spent in the offseason and because of the expectations, being favored to win the Big 12. They're the favorite out of the Big 12 teams to reach the college football playoff as well. They're going to be under a ton of pressure this year, and he's going to have to perform. And I'm curious to see how that works. He brings in a big transfer from Louisiana, Terrence Carter, who is the tight end I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
48 catches, almost 700 yards, 14.4 yards per catch. This guy, he's essentially a wide receiver
Yeah.
playing tight end. He reminds me a ton of Gerald Everett.
He not built like one.
6'2", 245. So heavy for what would be a wide receiver. But his catches are down the field. He lines up at tight end, and he just splits the seam.
Yeah.
Then dominates a safety on the catch. A ton of his big play, 2 of his big play touchdowns last year are seam routes over the middle where he catches it and a safety's trying to tackle him as he's catching it, and he just shoves him off and runs down the sideline. Now, that was at Louisiana. We'll see how he does in the Big 12, but I expect him to be really, really good for Texas Tech. Shout out CT this year. Their schedule, too, this is where I was going to pick them to win the Big 12. But their schedule, I think, hinders me from doing that. And I want to pick them to even be in the Big 12 championship, but I can't do that either. They play at Utah, at Arizona State, at Kansas State. Those are the 3 other teams that are favored to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
And you have to go on the road to each of them this year. They're going to be tested because of that.
Fair.
And I don't know if head coach Joey McGuire and Morton are up to par with the amount of expectations that are going to be there money-wise, given those 3 teams that you got to play. Utah is historically really hard to win at. Arizona State's going to be rocking every home game this year because of Kenny Dillingham and what they did last year. And then Manhattan, Kansas is no pushover, especially with how I feel them being a Big 12 title contender coming down the stretch.
It's kind of, I was just looking at their schedule. They play, so they're number 2 in the preseason favorite.
They're tied with Kansas State.
Thank you. So they're tied with Kansas State for 1. So they play Kansas State, who's tied for 1st, Arizona State and Utah, who are both tied for 3rd, and Baylor. So they play the other top 5, or 4 of the top 5. And
Yeah,
they're
they
the
don't
5th.
play Baylor.
And then, I'm sorry, they play 3 of the top 4, and then they're the 4th. And then they play the bottom 4 as well. So they play UCF, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, and Houston, and they get
3 of those.
3 of those at home. So
yeah.
it's a very unfortunate.
If those were flipped, I would have picked them to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
this year, but because of that, it's just hard.
It's a tough draw.
It's really hard for me to say that they are going to prove that. And a big thing with transfer classes, what we've seen, and really the short history of it is the example is Florida State 2 years ago with the transfers that they brought in while they had kept their quarterback and Jordan Travis in-house. They were really, really good, undefeated.
Yeah.
Could have been in the playoff, shouldn't have been, in my opinion. The next year they bring a ton of transfers back in again. DJ Uyunglele and a ton of transfers everywhere else. Historically bad season. It can go either way with transfer classes, and that's going to be the story for them. The amount of starters that they have from the transfer portal, 11.
Yeah.
And then having the number one transfer portal class, there's no guarantee that
it's a hit or miss team building
click.
Yeah.
Strategy.
And I don't think we know enough about Joey McGuire to say that it should.
Sure.
The analogy I go to all the time is that 2021 Tampa Bay Super Bowl? Like, I know this is NFL and college, but the analogy is that NFL team, that Tampa team, they snuck into the playoffs, right? They're like 9-7 and made it as a wild card, and then they finally clicked and got hot and went on and won. You can't lose 3 games in college football. You definitely can't lose 7, but you can't lose nearly half of your games. I mean, 9-7 is 1 game above 500. You can't do that in college football and then get hot at the end of the season. So
Sure.
even if this does work out eventually and they win 5 of their last 6, if you lose to start the season, if you lose at Utah and then you lose at Arizona State, and now you're already losing lost 2 games, and you're halfway through the season, you got to get really hot down the stretch to make it. So
Sure.
that is the downside of bringing in like all these elite guys in the transfer portal is if it doesn't click or it clicks too late, it just doesn't matter because this isn't the NFL and you can't sneak in like that.
True. It is better than not bringing them in. However,
I
it gives
100% agree.
a higher ceiling.
Hey,
But
I would.
What?
Would I trade? Yeah, I would trade rosters with them. 100p. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yes, I would trade Ross. What are we talking about?
no
here?
question there.
All right. Would you pay for it out of pocket? I would go $29 million in debt for my team.
No, I wouldn't pay for it. In fact, I don't ever plan on donating money to our NIL fund.
Interesting.
I hate that part of the sport.
That's fair.
I hate that. I hate that people, and the fact that people have to cough up money every single year for this, for what?
To hope you're good.
It's different too because like in the National Football League, these are professionals.
Yeah.
And these guys are more often than not going to play up to those contracts or whatever you're going to pay them. We're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Like, I hate the ethics about it all. So, no, I would not pay out of pocket for
the
a
NFL
good Mississippi State team.
Teams also aren't directly going, hey, can we get money
Yeah.
to help pay for a team?
They
Yeah.
make that much money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get the over-under on
Over
Texas
under
Tech?
for Texas Tech. It is probably closed again because I closed the tab.
Good work. I'm going to go with it's 8.5. I almost said 7.5, but I think it's going to go 8.5 here.
I feel like it's 8.5. I feel like
And they're
y'all
the
looked
favorite to
beforehand.
win the Big 12, so
Tied.
tied for the.
Tied for the
They're one
favorite.
of the favorites.
Yeah.
I'll take the over. I think they hit 9-3.
I think they're going to go 10-2 and be in the Big 12 title game against Kansas State.
Cool.
I think they'll get it done, but I just have a question about the
Okay.
schedule.
I will also pick them to go over. I'm going to ask you. So you've got them getting to the title game. Why would you not pick them to win it? Because if your one qualm with them is their schedule, but you still have them getting to the title game, why would you not pick them to win
He
it?
really likes Kansas State.
I'm
That's
picking Kansas State because I'm thinking of that of a betting thing, not
Okay.
of a head-to-head.
Okay.
I'm thinking of like they have the same odds. Who's more likely to win the Big 12 title game and win the Big 12 if you played this season 100 times?
You're
Okay.
taking
Kansas State.
Sure.
That's my pick there. If it was head-to-head, I would pick Texas Tech
Oh, okay.
in that title game.
Okay.
But I think Kansas State more often than not gets it done.
Okay.
So that's why I pick Kansas State because I want to be right.
Is tied with the worst odds to win the Big 12. Scott Frost is back in the building. He said he wishes he never left, but they went 4-8 last year under Gus Malzahn, and they fired him. Like I said,
he resigned.
he resigned. He was going to get fired.
He was. I was looking it up earlier because I was like, wait, how did Scott Frost get here? And I went and looked. I was like, Gus Malzahn resigned. He did take the OC job at Miami, which is like, that's a good job.
Sure.
But
He was going to be out the
he
door
was,
anyway.
Yeah, he was.
So Scott Frost is back, and he has to try and rebuild this roster in a hurry. It's a QB battle between three guys. It's, Ja'Cory Brown is one of them, I know. We are unsure who's going to start yet. Scott Frost says he's nowhere
It's
close to a decision.
Cam Fancher and Taven Jackson and then Ja'Cory Brown.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's a quote. We're
Yeah.
not
Yes.
close to a decision yet, I don't think.
And I couldn't begin to tell you who I think is going to start for them. That being said, I don't really know if it matters. Some key players for them, they bring back Miles Montgomery. He had 293 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns last
That's
year.
tough.
They don't really return much. Let me tell you that. They brought in 34 transfers to really try and overhaul this roster. Another guy they brought in, though, or not another guy they brought in, someone they brought in, Lewis Carter, a linebacker from Oklahoma, had 23 tackles there. Can get after the quarterback a little bit. They're hoping he can be an impact guy from the portal. And then Elijah Kelly, a defensive end, who was on the team last year, had 53 tackles and 5.5 sacks last season. The biggest question, or there's a lot of questions, but 34 transfers, is there any way it kind of glues and melds together into a winning formula, especially if a lot of them weren't highly touted transfers? Another big piece, they lose R.J. Harvey. I know you're really high on him as a
fifth string Broncos.
I did see that
running
today.
back.
He's listed at the 5th string right now.
Really?
Yep. I think they're
Of
just
your Broncos.
I
semantics.
haven't been on social media all day, so I didn't see that.
They lose him. It's pretty much a whole new O-line. There's no proven wide receivers on the roster. So who steps up? Who steps up, if anyone, for this team?
That's bad.
The uniforms.
The uniforms step
I
up?
think the uniforms step up.
Does the
They'll have-
Scott Frost magic just come back?
I don't think yet.
No, I don't think so
I
either.
think he'll have to do some rebuilding there. He's bringing in a ton of transfers because, unfortunately, that is what you're forced to do as a new coach.
Yeah.
It's because as soon as the coach leaves, everyone on the roster that was originally there has to leave, so you have to bring in a bunch of transfers. And I think it's going to take a few years to rebuild it, but I don't think it's a place he can't go and win
Sure.
eventually. So I hate throwing away seasons, but the season's going to get thrown away.
Yeah.
But maybe you try and build some things and build some culture, get readjusted to life in Orlando, Florida, and see if he can rebuild what he had, which is a national champion in the UCF Knights.
Sure.
Self-proclaimed.
My one concern, well, one of my concerns, is I feel like we're kind of forgetting that last time Scott Frost was successful, it was in a different conference.
Yeah.
Same team, different conference, different level of competition. He then went to the Big Ten and was not successful at all. Once again, that is a higher level competition than the Big 12. You sound like, you were just talking about Scott Frost, and you seem to be pretty confident in him. Are there any concerns you have that he and UCF benefited from stars aligning, in that they had the Griffin twins, the Griffin twins, and some other really good NFL talent on that roster, and then also benefited by playing an American conference schedule as opposed to a
'cause
Big 12?
The American Conference is just the Big 12 now, and I think it'll continue like that.
Sure.
Cincinnati and Houston and UCF as well, and are in this conference
But
now.
they're too good for Memphis though, so that's their standard is.
Yeah. That's so funny.
But I see. It's weird to say that, but I feel like the Big 12, at least if you averaged it all out, is not much better than what the American was in that era.
That's fair.
Especially, I guess, up towards the top of that group.
And I was looking at their schedule because I was going to try and be like, oh, look at their conference schedule, in 2017 versus now, and a lot of the same teams showed up.
Yeah.
So it is a reality. But I was just curious how confident we are in Scott Frost. Same team, different conference.
I'm also not too worried about it because, maybe he won't have them in national championship contention, right? But you need excitement and money, especially money, to win in this era. And I think there's anyone that can get UCF to cough up money, it's Scott Frost.
Yeah.
Because they can be like, think about what he did last time, and there's probably a lot of good relationships in that building and, relationship with the fan base, right?
Yeah.
So at least for that aspect, I'm also excited about it.
Yep.
And think it can work out.
Over-unders, you ready?
Let's do it.
Guesses?
3.5.
Ooh.
That was gonna be my guess as well.
5.5.
I'm gonna take the under.
I would take the over then.
Oh,
Imagine.
really?
What?
No, I'm gonna take the
Okay,
over.
I thought you were serious for a sec. Yeah, I'm gonna take the under.
It's just completely starting over. So many transfers. It's year one. So I just think it's gonna take some time to rebuild this. I don't think there will be a step forward this year.
Is there a world where everything clicks and they go 11-1?
I'd love to see it be so funny, but no, I don't know.
No, you're not gonna win at Cincinnati, so you've already lost.
I'm taking
it
the under.
against Kansas State. So
I'm taking the under as well.
Fair.
Moving on. Utah, our second to last team. We are so close, guys. 2.5 hours in. We're going to get out of here in sub 3 hours. I did not know it was going to take this long.
20th year of Kyle Whittingham and the Utah Utes. Historic success at Utah after taking over for Urban Meyer. They have the 4th best odds to win the Big 12, tied for 3rd realistically. This is similar to where they were last year, where they were the favorite to win the Big 12 preseason. This year, quarterback is going to be Devin Dampier. He's a pure runner, pure dual threat. Almost 1,200 rushing yards last year, 19 touchdowns, 2,800 yards through the air, and then 12 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. So not good from a passing perspective, but the rushing stats are insane. They're better than Jalen Milroe. They're even better than Parker Navarro. So Devin Dampier is going to be the star of the show for Utah, and he has to kind of lead the pack for this to be a team that wins the Big 12, which is kind of how Vegas views them right now. I will say their offensive tackles, they have arguably the best offensive tackle pair in college football. The only other argument is the Texas A&M Aggies.
Gig 'em.
Spencer Fanu, who was left tackle 2 years ago, right tackle last year. He's number 10 on the PFF and the number 3 offensive tackle. He's going to be a first-round pick this year. Caleb Lemieux was the left tackle last season, and he is that second half of it. He's also got a high PFF grade as well. Lander Barton will be their star on the defensive side at linebacker, 37 tackles that were solo last year with 72 combined. 2 sacks, 2 picks. He's a playmaker. He has a pick 6 in each of the last 2 years, which for a linebacker is really good. I mean, a la Jet Johnson, who never had pick 6s, but he had picks, of course.
Didn't he have the pick and then he handed it to a cornerback?
He pitched it, yeah.
That counts.
Respect to him for knowing he's not fast enough to find the end zone.
Exactly. The what's going to tell the story for Utah is home field advantage this year. They host Texas Tech. They host Arizona State. They host Kansas State. Those are the 3 other teams of competition. They'll play at Baylor, so they play the other team that's in that top 5 of contention to win the Big 12, but they host 3 of the 4, and their historic home field advantage has to play into that, which I think is a large part why they have the odds so high. I'm curious to hear what their win total is going to be here in a second. They would be my 3rd pick to reach the Big 12 title game, which puts Arizona State down to 4.
Sure.
But I think it's because of this.
And
the
TCU
schedule.
at 5?
TCU would be 5 in that.
The schedule is really nice. I think this was the perfect Power 4 team for Devin Dampier to go to because he gets to play behind this line that's very physical. It was a line that was recruited to play in a Pac-12 that is known to be a little more physical than the Big 12 conference. So I think they can exert kind of their will on opponents and really run the ball a ton. And Devin Dampier he may not have quite the same numbers he did last year, but can be very, very successful on the ground. I do think they'll probably run into a couple games where his passing lets them down and they maybe drop 1 or 2. But I love the idea of watching him run behind this really good offensive line. So,
yeah, and going back to what JP was saying about the schedule, wrong graphic. You can, you'll understand more once I give you all the win total. But you can lose to UCLA, and then like you said, 3 out of the 4 of your hardest games are at home, and then you've got the other one that's at Baylor. So you could lose one of those at home and then lose to Baylor. That's 2 conference losses. You can go 7-2 in the conference and then be in a tie break and potentially make it to the conference championship, and that's a pretty easy route. I mean, you only got to win 2 out of those 3 games at home. You got the home field advantage. You should win those, and then you lose at Baylor because it's on the road. Like that's an easy route. I'm gonna go ahead and give you all the win totals because I think it's kind of insane. 7.5.
I don't think that's insane whatsoever. Devin Dampier is too much of a question mark in terms of how is he going to perform in the Big 12. The transfer from New Mexico, passing like they remember Nate Johnson at Utah and his version of that offense. It was not productive, even with the Pac-12 offensive line and his speed and his ability. Like, you have to still be able to throw the ball to some degree. They're not running the option after all, so Dampier's going to have to show that, and I think that's why it's at 7.5. I don't think that's a terrible line.
I think the reason I was saying is it was crazy is because this is the tied for second favorite to win the Big 12.
But we've just seen a lot of more conservative lines in this conference because of how kind of even it is on the top.
Yeah.
There's no like true teams that separate themselves from the rest. So I think it may be a game low, but it's nothing crazy.
Yeah.
With that being said, I will take the over. I've already kind of said it. JP's already said it. Devin Dampier's passing will have to get better, and it may lose them a couple games. But even with that in mind, I still think they can find 8 wins. So because their hardest games are at home, and that's a tough place to play. It was really well put, JP.
Yeah, they got to handle business at home. They got to handle business at home, and that's the story of their season. Week 1 will be interesting. Nico Imaliava, which will be home field advantage for Utah. Because
I didn't realize
they've played in the Rose Bowl twice in the past 4 years, and UCLA doesn't get any fans there anyway.
I was looking at transfer quarterback rankings today, trying to get ready for this show, and I didn't realize Nico was a 5-star transfer quarterback.
He's that good. If he was playing for Tennessee, I was picking them to win the SEC.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a large part with schedule based, but he's still good.
He didn't have like the best season last year, but I think a lot of the people piling on him is because of how the transfer move went down.
Yeah.
And then they go start cherry picking stuff and throws from last year and being like, oh, this guy was bad.
I thought a lot.
I watched him play in person.
Yeah.
He's talented, clearly, and he got hurt in that game with a concussion, but he's talented.
Yeah. I didn't mean to put us into a Big Ten. Is that what we're talking now? Big Ten, technically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
We can get back. We've made our picks. We've all got Utah taking the over.
Yeah.
Do you think Utah fans are glad to be done with Cam Rising?
I think so. It's like,
Okay.
I think
I know the college football world is.
I am very happy that every year he would get hyped up, and I'd be like, okay, maybe he can have a little going away party and have a good year, and then just be done. And it never happened. And then every year he would come back, and go ahead.
It was just tough because he always got hurt, that was the worst part.
And so you wanted him to come back and have a healthy season.
Correct, and that held Utah in jail, honestly, because they could never move on because he did have good seasons there. But then he'd always get hurt, and then they have to rely on the backup, and that would just never go well. It kind of felt like a toxic relationship. No fault of Cam Rising's.
None.
But I'm happy they moved on. I think they're happy to have moved on as well. I think it's a good question.
All right.
Final team.
West Virginia.
West Virginia brings back Rich Rodriguez from Jacksonville State. He was very successful there, and they're going to hope he can bring that success back to this program and see the success that he had last time he was at West Virginia as well. He almost had them in the national title game. In fact, they ended up losing 13-9 to Pitt, and that kept them out. And not very good Pitt team either. It was kind of an inexcusable loss. But that being said, he's inheriting not the best situation. They have the 14th best odds to win the Big 12. They have a bit of a quarterback battle going on right now between Nico Marchiol and Jalen Henderson. I think Marchiol may start because he's been in-house for a couple years. He played a bit last year at 434 passing yards and 5 touchdowns with 2 interceptions. My hot take is I would play Jalen Henderson, someone that's been in the A&M program for the past couple years. I think he's got the goods. He can run the ball very effectively. He can hit some big throws. Like I said, I don't expect them to start them, but that's kind of, I guess, my hot take is I would start Jalen Henderson. I love the guy. Another key player, the return Jaheim White, their running back from last year, who had 844 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then a transfer they're bringing in, Jamori Robinson is a defensive end from UTSA who had 10.5 sacks there last year. Once again, talking about you're going to bring in people from kind of lower down schools. You want them to really impress there, and he really impressed there.
Absolutely.
So I have a couple questions for y'all. Is there any world where this rebuild gets a jump start in year one? I've talked about the roster's not the best. Rich Rod's coming back to fix it. He's known for high-profile offenses and explosive offenses. So is there any world where this gets off the ground running in year one, or is it going to take more time than that?
I think it's definitely possible. I'd be surprised if it did happen, but I expect West Virginia to be back among the best in the Big 12 soon, and that is in large part because that is the way the scene is right now with NIL, and having one of the biggest faces in all of sports, Pat McAfee, as your alumni, is going to help build that program. It's going to put donorship into that program. Think back on last year, pre-Rich Rod, that game where they were hosting Penn State, a lot of people thought that, hey, that's a West Virginia upset right there. They should win that game. I didn't think that. I was really high on Penn State even going into the year.
Sure.
And they kind of got shafted too. There was a thunderstorm that rolled through midway through like the second quarter, and there was a 3-hour delay before they started play again, and the Penn State just kicked their butt post-delay. But because, the stadium was basically empty after that. Everyone had cleared out. But I don't know if they're going to get it done in year one.
That's fair.
I hope they do. West Virginia is a program I really like.
Agreed.
And Rich Rod, of course, had historic years with West Virginia. They are among the elite in college football for a time there with Pat White. But I wouldn't bet on it this year.
Fair. To answer my own question, I also wouldn't bet on it. But out of the bottom teams in the Big 12, if I had to pick a team that I think could surprise people, it would be West Virginia. Like if you're like out of the bottom 5 teams, which one would you choose?
UCF,
Houston,
Oklahoma State, Houston.
Yeah, like a Cincinnati. This is the one I would choose to really surprise people. But it's still not that likely.
Over under is 5.5. I'm gonna look at the schedule real quick and pull that up.
Sure.
They
go to Ohio, which is very interesting. I noticed that earlier.
Yeah, maybe it's a home and home situation.
Yeah, it's just
Other
does Parker Navarro? You gotta go play in Parker Navarro's house, man. That's scary.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the under.
It's no cakewalk.
Yep, they've got other non-conference games in Robert Morris and Pittsburgh. Conference games. They've got Houston, so they kind of have the flip of who was it that had all of their hard games on the road and easy games at home?
Texas Tech.
Yeah, so West Virginia's got, Arizona State's on the road. It's pretty even. It's distributed because they've got Texas Tech at home, Arizona State on the road.
Yeah.
And they have to
I'm
play
gonna go
6 road games.
I'm going to go.
That's why I'm going to lean under.
I'm going to also take the under.
6 road games is brutal.
I do have high hopes for their future, though, under Rich Rod again. But, yeah, just year one, it's going to take some time, so under.
You want to call it there? Be done?
Yes.
I would love to do that.
Awesome.
Thank
End
you all
it,
for
Jack.
tuning in, and see you all on Sunday for the ACC, and we'll have an entirely different format because this is not sustainable. Peace.
See ya.